Chapter 181. At dawn, Qin Feiyong walked out of the castle and pushed the door open. He saw that Feng Ling had woken up and was standing alone by the lake, looking at the clear water in a daze. Lu Hong was accompanying her. Qin Feiyong walked over and apologized. "I'm sorry, I'm incompetent. I couldn't save your grandfather." Feng Ling said, "This has nothing to do with you. You don't have to blame yourself." Qin Feiyong's lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but he didn't. "Boss, you're so early." Fatso's voice came from the other side of the lake. Qin Feiyong looked up and saw Fatso standing on the other side of the wooden bridge, waving at him. "You're even earlier," Qin Feiyong said with a smile. "Of course, haven't you heard? The early bird gets the worm." Fatso chuckled and quickly ran over, saying, "Boss, Fat Lord really heard a strange news." "What news?" Qin Feiyong and Lu Hong looked at him suspiciously. "The prize of the competition has suddenly doubled," Fatso explained in detail. After listening, Qin Feiyong sneered. "This eldest prince is really impatient." Feng Ling turned to look at him and frowned. "Are you going to participate in the competition?" Qin Feiyong said. "With such a tempting prize in front of me, how can I not go?" Feng Ling thought for a moment and said, "Then I'll go too. I have nothing to do anyway." "No." Fatso shook his head. "Why not?" Feng Ling asked. Qin Feiyong was also puzzled. Fatso said, "According to the rules of this competition, only those under the age of 18 can participate. If Fat Lord remembers correctly, you should be 18 years old." Feng Ling frowned and said, "Why did they set this rule?" "That's what the first prince said. He wants to give the youngsters from Yin City a chance. In fact, it's to prevent martial arts prodigies like you from participating in the competition. Especially since you have a good relationship with us, you will definitely help us. If you go, the first place will be yours, and his plan won't succeed. Tell me, is this bullshit first prince despicable?" Fatso sneered. Qin Feiyong said, "That's a good thing." Lu Hong nodded and said with a smile, "Indeed, if the younger generation were to participate, we would have no hope of winning." Qin Feiyong pondered for a while, then looked at Fatso and said, "Go and call Ling Yunfei. We'll meet at the gate." "Okay." Fatso chuckled, turned around and ran away. Qin Feiyong looked at Feng Ling and asked, "Do you want to join in the fun?" Feng Ling said, "If we can't participate, why should we go?" "All right then." Qin Feiyong nodded and said to Lu Hong, "Accompany her." After saying that, he turned around and walked towards the wooden bridge. At the same time, Shi Zhang was jumping down from the balcony of the attic next door. Qin Feiyong walked over and said with a smile, "Elder Shi, the palace master and Ma Cheng have already reached an agreement. There's no need to continue protecting me, right?" Shi Zhang said, "It's better to be careful." Qin Feiyong thought for a moment and nodded. "All right, then I'll have to trouble you, Elder." Although Ma Cheng agreed, it was hard to say what Jia He would do. What if he secretly sent someone to assassinate him behind Ma Cheng's back? Moreover, there was the blood token. This force was mysterious and unfathomable. He had to be careful. The two of them arrived at the entrance. After waiting for a while, Fatso and Ling Yunfei arrived. As soon as Ling Yunfei walked over, he said, "Fatso has already told me the details. It won't be a problem to enter the top 3. Don't be careless." Qin Feiyong shook his head. The first prince had prepared for so long, he would definitely not let them win easily. It was likely that many of the geniuses in this competition had already been bribed by the first prince. Next, he brought the 3 of them and walked out of the martial imperial palace in a dignified manner. "Zhang Haoyan is out. He finally showed up. Where is he going? Let's go and take a look." The spies of the various major powers all followed behind the 4 of them. Qin Feiyong naturally noticed it, but he didn't care. Treasure Pavilion, VIP room. Manager Li glanced around and asked curiously, "Brother Jiang, where are you going to cause trouble in this group of people?" "Senior, you're already so old. Can't you be more serious?" Qin Feiyong was very helpless. He took out a jade box and threw it on the desk. Manager Li opened the jade box and 6 top-grade red fire-colored glass pills immediately appeared. After a quick glance, he looked up at Qin Feiyong and asked, "Are these used to pay off the debt?" Isn't it obvious? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and said angrily, also, don't write any IOU in the future. It's annoying just looking at it. There's no other way. This is the rule. We're all honest people. We have to abide by it, right? However, these 6 pills are worth at most 25 million. It seems to be a little less than 30 million. Manager Li chuckled. Fatso said angrily, old bastard, can't you give us a discount? Sorry, I've already given you a 9% discount. Manager Li said with a smile. A 9% discount? Fatso was stunned and said angrily, you might as well not give us a discount. How can you ask for a 9% discount when you don't even know? Manager Li sighed. Alas, I can't help it. Business is hard. In order to help you find those medicinal herbs, I almost broke my legs. How can you bargain with me here? Qin Feiyang's face twitched. He took out 2 more top-grade red fire-colored glass pills and threw them to Manager Li, saying, take the extra as a reward for your hard work. Good, good, good. Boss Jiang is so generous. Manager Li was overjoyed. 2 top-grade red fire-colored glass pills were worth at least 8 million. In other words, he could get 3 million as a reward. As for the rest, they were public funds. He didn't dare to touch them. Let's go. Qin Feiyang called Ling Yunfei and the other 2 and walked out. Go? Manager Li was stunned and hurriedly said, wait, is there anything else? Qin Feiyang asked. Manager Li said, the account hasn't been settled yet. How can you leave? You still have to give me 2 top-grade red fire-colored glass pills. Qin Feiyang's body stiffened. He turned to look at him and asked, why? Manager Li said, nonsense, of course to give to Jiahe. Otherwise, do you think I took those 3 blood ginseng for free? Qin Feiyang frowned. Not included in the 30 million? No. Manager Li said, in this way, I bought nearly 40 million medicinal herbs this time, didn't I? Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. Weren't the medicinal herbs of the potential pill a bit too expensive? Shi Zhang and Ling Yunfei next to him were also dumbfounded. What medicinal herbs were worth 40 million? Manager Li stared at him carefully and said, Boss Jiang, I have to tell you, you can't go back on your words, or I'll ask Jiahe to ask for it from you. Do I look like someone who would go back on his words? Qin Feiyang glared at him angrily, took out 2 top-grade red fire-colored glass pills and threw them over. In fact, his heart was aching. 10 top-grade red fire-colored glass pills were gone as soon as he came to the treasure pavilion. He was really bleeding a lot. Boss Jiang is indeed a man of his word. Manager Li gave him a thumbs up and laughed heartily. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and said, continue to help me collect those medicinal herbs, especially the snow crystal, 9 suns flower, and blood ginseng. Manager Li smiled. As long as you have money, everything is negotiable. But can you reveal a little bit what kind of pill you want to refine? You want to know? Wait patiently. Qin Feiyang laughed, turned around, and strode away. Bastard! Manager Li cursed secretly, but he was more and more curious. Fatso chased after him and frowned. Boss, I still want to save some money, but if you squander it like this, I'm afraid we'll be poor for the rest of our lives. Don't worry, when the time comes, we only need 1 pill, and we'll get back the cost. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, showing off absolute confidence. Hearing this, Shi Zhang and Ling Yunfei looked at each other and couldn't help but feel surprised. What kind of pill could be worth 40 million gold coins? Fatso's eyebrows were also full of doubts. Leaving the treasure pavilion, Shi Zhang took the 3 of them and rushed to the E-City district. This news quickly spread to the ears of the first prince and Lin Hao. They're finally here. This time, I'm going to make a fool of you in public. Let's go and welcome them. The first prince sneered, got up and walked out of the hall. Welcome? Lin Hao was slightly stunned and frowned. There's no need for that, the first prince said. I have to see him sign up with my own eyes before I can be completely relieved. Okay. Lin Hao nodded, got up, and followed the first prince to a square outside the palace, waiting quietly. There were many young people around. When they saw the 2 of them, they ran up to curry favor. They didn't know how long they had waited. In short, they were impatient. Finally, familiar figures entered their line of sight. At the same time, Qin Feiyang also noticed the first prince and the second prince. Ling Yunfei sneered. Needless to say, they must be waiting for us. Then let them wait a little longer. Fatso smirked, glanced at the two sides of the street, and locked his eyes on a shop on the left and said, Boss, there's a clothing shop. Shall we go in and shop? Okay. I'm also planning to buy some clothes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Under the astonished gaze of the first prince and Lin Hao, Qin Feiyang and the other two went directly into the shop. These three brats are really a headache. Shi Zheng shook his head and smiled bitterly and could only follow in. After buying clothes, they entered a shop that sold shoes. After buying shoes, the first prince and Lin Hao thought that they were coming, but they didn't expect that they would enter a jewelry shop. Your Highness, they must be doing it on purpose. Lin Hao roared angrily. Even if it's on purpose, you have to bear with it. The first prince said in a low voice, his hands hidden in his sleeves tightly clenched. Obviously, he was also very angry. Your Highness, what are you doing here? At this moment, a puzzled voice sounded. A young man in purple walked out of the crowd and strode towards the first prince. Behind him, there was a man and a woman, both of whom were in their late 20s and had extraordinary temperaments. The first prince smiled. Shuiyang, why are you here? Shuiyang said, I brought Junior Xie and Junior Wang to sign up for the competition. The first prince glanced at the man and woman, and his eyes flashed slightly. He looked at Shuiyang and said, Zhang Haoyin is in that jewelry shop. Go and see what they are doing. Lin Hao added, if there's a chance, teach them a lesson. Zhang Haoyin. Shuiyang's eyes suddenly surged with strong killing intent, and he sneered, Your Highness, don't worry, leave it to me. Let's go. Chapter 182. Inside the shop, Qin Feiyang was casually looking at the accessories. The shop owner was also a middle-aged fatso, but he was not as outstanding as Fatso. He followed him closely and kept introducing the items. Fatso called out, Boss, it's time to go. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. The fat shop owner immediately showed a disappointed look. This was a big customer, but unfortunately, he did not sell anything. Huh. Qin Feiyang was about to turn around when he suddenly saw a red jade pendant. The fat shop owner's eyes lit up and hurriedly introduced it. Young Master Jiang, this jade pendant is called Flaming Phoenix. Look at its color, how bright it is, and the phoenix pattern, how charming it is. To be honest, young Master Jiang, the Flaming Phoenix is the most famous carving master in Yin City, carefully carved with the best fire jade. Let's not talk about its value. Just its craftsmanship alone is worth collecting. The fat shop owner's mouth was like a river, exaggerating. Qin Feiyang asked, Just say it. How much is it? The fat shop owner stretched out his hand. 500,000? 500,000? Fatso shouted and walked over. He looked at the so-called Flaming Phoenix and mocked. We're not idiots. If you don't give us a reasonable price, we'll leave immediately. The fat shop owner smiled and said, 400,000, no less. Fatso sneered. It's more profitable than selling elixirs. 50,000 at most. Sell it or not. The fat shop owner's face twitched and he smiled bitterly. Brother Fatty, your bargaining is too outrageous. His eyes were full of resentment, as if to say, Brother Fatty, we're all Fatso. Why do you have to make things difficult for Fatso? Forget it if you don't want to sell. Fatso ignored the resentful eyes and dragged Qin Feiyang outside. The fat shop owner gritted his teeth and said, Young Master Jiang, I'll sell it even if I lose money. 50,000 it is. That's more like it. Fatso smiled proudly. Qin Feiyang asked, Do you have any more? If there's only one, I don't want it. Hearing this, the fat boss's face became very interesting, because the more he sold, the more he would lose. But he really wanted to do business with Qin Feiyang. He gritted his teeth and nodded. Yes, there are 4 more. Fatso angrily said, Fuck. Haven't you heard that the rarer something is, the more precious it is? You have so many here, and you still want to collect them? Even Fat Lord doesn't think 50,000 gold coins is worth it. The fat boss said bitterly, My Fat Lord, I'm really selling at a loss. I swear to God. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Okay, help me wrap it up. All right. The fat boss ran off to get busy. Qin Feiyong took out the Chinkoan bag and looked at it carefully. A row of black lines immediately appeared on his forehead. In such a large Chinkoan bag, there was not even a single gold coin. He looked at Fatso and said angrily, "Didn't I say very clearly that you would leave me some pocket money? Now I don't even have a single silver coin. How do you want me to pay the bill?" Qin Feiyong and Shi Zheng were stunned. The fat boss was also petrified on the spot. A dignified supreme-grade alchemist actually had no money? Fatso shrunk his neck and said with an embarrassed smile, "The financial power is now in Lu Hong's hands. Fat Lord can't make the decision. If you want to settle the score, go to her." Qin Feiyong's veins were bulging. This guy was really a fraud. He had lost all his face. "Zhang Haoyin, you're too shabby. You're an alchemist after all. Do you want me to lend you some?" At this moment, Shuiyang walked in with a man and a woman. Fatso frowned and said in a low voice, "Boss, he's Shuiyang. The other two are also core disciples of the Danwang Hall. The man is Xiefeng, and the woman is Wang Xia." Qin Feiyang said, "I know he's Shuiyang. I've seen him in the treasure pavilion before." Shuiyang glanced at them, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said playfully, "How about it? Do you want it? I don't charge interest." Shi Zheng walked up and said lightly, "Isn't it just 250,000 gold coins? I'll give it to you." A cold light flashed in the depths of Shui Yang's eyes. He looked at the fat boss and said, "No matter what Zhang Haoyin buys, I'll take it all and give you double the price." The fat boss was a little embarrassed. He didn't dare to offend Qin Feiyang. Shuiyang was Jia Hei's personal disciple. He also didn't dare to offend him. He begged, "Young Master Shui, if you have any grudges with young Master Jiang, can you settle it elsewhere? I'm just a small businessman. Don't make things difficult for me, okay?" "Why? Do you have a big objection?" Shui Yang's eyes were unfriendly. No. How would I dare to have an objection?" The fat boss hurriedly waved his hand and looked at Qin Feiyang pleadingly. He hoped that Qin Feiyang could take a step back. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and said, "It seems that the lesson I taught you last time wasn't deep enough." At the mention of this, Shui Yang's face became incomparably ferocious. Qin Feiyang turned a blind eye and said lightly, "You want whatever I want. Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Shui Yang said word by word. His heart was already occupied by hatred. "Fine, you're awesome." Qin Feiyang gave a thumbs up and turned to look at the fat boss, saying, "I want everything you have here. Listen well, everything." The fat boss was dumbfounded. "This is a great move." Shi Zheng praised. This way, not only could he help the fat boss out of the predicament, but he could also ruthlessly scam Shuiyang. It could be said to be killing two birds with one stone. Shuiyang clenched his fists, his gaze frighteningly gloomy. "Yo!" Fatso let out a strange cry and joked, "Young Master Shui, why aren't you saying anything?" "Fat Lord, let me remind you that you're Jia Hei's disciple. If you don't keep your word, you won't be the only one losing face, but your master will too." Shuiyang said sternly, "Fatso, say one more word and I'll cripple you. Come. If you don't cripple me today, you'll be Fat Lord's great-grandson." Fatso took a step forward and provoked arrogantly, "You're courting death." Shui Yang's eyes flashed with a hint of ruthlessness. But just as he raised his hand, it was grabbed by Xiefeng, who shook his head and said, "Brother Shui, don't be provoked by him." Wang Xia nodded and said, "The palace is just next door. If you fight here, even Elder Jiao won't be able to save you. It won't hurt to endure it for a while." Fatso immediately gave the two of them a thumbs up and chuckled. "I'll give you a thumbs up." Xiefeng and Wang Xia raised their eyebrows and a cold light flashed in their eyes. "Boring." Fatso waved his hand in disdain and looked at Shui Yang. "They're right. Just endure it. You're just a coward anyway." Xiefeng frowned and said, "Fatso, don't go overboard." Fatso shouted, Fat Lord thought you were very smart. So you're an idiot too. Do you want to stand up for him?" Xiefeng said, "If you're so capable, let's meet in the competition. Don't just talk here." Fatso sized him up and said, "I'm sorry. Fat Lord's motto has always been to avoid violence if he can talk." After some thought, he added, "Besides, You can't even win against him in words. What right do you have to fight with Fat Lord? Go take a piss and look at your reflection. Xie Fang's eyes were burning with anger. This damned fatso's mouth really needs to be taught a lesson. Seeing that Xie Fang was also enraged, Wang Xia's pupils constricted, and she hurriedly dragged the two of them outside. Fatso twisted his neck and said indifferently, "People with low IQ shouldn't come out for a stroll, lest they embarrass themselves. Bastard! I'm going to destroy you." Shuiyang and Xie Fang roared at the same time and turned to charge at Fatso. Even Wang Xia couldn't hold them back. "Stop!" At this moment, a cold shout sounded. The eldest prince and Lin Hao walked in one after another. "The main character is here." Fatso tactfully retreated to Qin Feiyang's side. The eldest prince coldly glanced at Shuiyang and the other two and said angrily, "What's going on? How dare you fight here? Do you want to die? Keep pretending, keep pretending." Fatso sneered. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Shuiyang and the other two were ordered by someone, and the person who ordered them was undoubtedly the eldest prince. Shuiyang glared at Qin Feiyang and the others and said, "Your Highness, it's all their fault for provoking us first, especially that Fatso. He's so arrogant and even humiliated you. Your Highness." The eldest prince turned to look at Fatso with a cold gaze. Shizheng frowned and said expressionlessly, "Think before you speak." Shuiyang said angrily, "Elder Shi, you're with them. Of course you'll speak for them." "Bastard!" Shizheng was furious. He stepped forward and grabbed Shuiyang's arm, saying, "I'll take you to the Danwang Hall now. I'd like to ask Elder Jia how he educates his disciples." Shuiyang's face immediately turned pale. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile, "Your Highness, how do you plan to deal with the troublemakers? If you don't deal with them, I'm afraid your reputation as the eldest prince will be ruined today." The eldest prince was furious to the extreme. He wanted to use this as a pretext to make a fuss and frustrate Qin Feiyang, but he didn't expect that he would end up digging his own grave. Because if this matter really blew up, they would be the ones to suffer. After all, the boss of this shop had witnessed the entire process. Although he could threaten the fat boss, Qin Feiyang and the others also had the Martial Imperial Hall behind them. Therefore, the fat boss would definitely tell the truth in the end. Slap. The eldest prince slapped Shuiyang's face without hesitation. A bright red palm print instantly appeared. Shuiyang was stunned. But the eldest prince didn't care about him. He looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. "Brother Jiang, are you satisfied? What do you think?" Qin Feiyang asked. Slap. The eldest prince slapped Xie Fang and Wang Xia again and asked with a smile, "What about now?" Qin Feiyang smiled. "Your Highness is selfless. I admire you." The eldest prince said, "That's what I should do. I wonder why Brother Jiang came to the East District. If I can help, please feel free to ask." "If I really need your Highness' help, I will definitely not be polite." Qin Feiyang smiled and turned to the fat boss, asking, "Boss, is it done?" "It's done." The fat boss pushed an exquisite wooden box in front of Qin Feiyang with a trace of gratitude in his eyes. Shizheng let go of Shuiyang and went over to settle the bill. He looked at Shuiyang and said, "Young people should learn to be good. Don't just sow discord all day. It won't do you any good in the future." Elder Shi is right. The eldest prince smiled and shouted at Shuiyang and the others, "Why aren't you apologizing to Elder Shi?" "Elder Shi, I'm sorry. Elder Shi, please forgive me for my previous offense." The three of them bowed. Shizheng said, "Forget it. This matter is over. Thank you for your magnanimity, Elder Shi." Chapter 183. Fighting with us is simply looking for a beating. Fatso laughed gloatingly. "Let's go." Qin Feiyang put away the wooden box, nodded and smiled at the eldest prince, then called Fatso and the other two and strode out of the jewelry shop. "Let's go too." The eldest prince waved his hand. After the two groups of people left, the fat boss breathed a sigh of relief. Shuiyang rubbed his burning face and stared at Qin Feiyang and the others in front of him, his eyes filled with hostility. The eldest prince sighed and said, "I had no choice but to hit you just now. Please forgive me." "It's okay." Shuiyang and the other two shook their heads. The eldest prince whispered, "Don't worry, I will definitely avenge you in the competition." Xie Fang sneered and said, If they participate in the competition, you don't need to show up. I can beat them. Wang Xia nodded and said, yes, it is said that Zhang Haoyan is only an 8-star martial master. There is nothing to worry about. The eldest prince looked at the two of them in surprise and said with a smile, if you can really do it, I will reward each of you with a top-grade red fire glass pill. Thank you, Your Highness. The two of them were overjoyed and hurriedly bowed to thank him. The eldest prince nodded and caught up with Qin Feiyong in a few steps. He smiled and said, Brother Jiang, I wonder if my top-grade red fire glass pill is ready? Oh. Qin Feiyong patted his head and said in distress, Your Highness, I'm really sorry. I've been too busy these days and forgot about it. When I go back, I'll immediately start refining pills. The eldest prince raised his eyebrows and waved his hand and said with a smile, It's okay, as long as you give it to me before I get married. Qin Feiyong said with a smile, It definitely won't delay Your Highness's marriage. Right now, he only had a total of 6 top-grade red fire glass pills. If he gave it to the eldest prince, there would only be one left. To be honest, he really didn't want to give it to the eldest prince. But with his current strength, he couldn't swallow these 5 top-grade red fire glass pills. Look, isn't that Luo Qingzhu? Suddenly, Lin Hao pointed to the front, his eyes full of surprise. Everyone looked over. 2 white-clothed girls walked hand in hand in the crowd, forming a beautiful scene that attracted the gazes of countless men. She's here too? Qin Feiyong was surprised. One of them was indeed Luo Qingzhu, and the girl beside her was Zhao Shuang'er, little sister Qingzhu. The first prince's eyes lit up. He stretched out his hand and called out to her affectionately. Then, he strode after her. Lin Hao, Shuiyang, and the other 2 quickly followed. Sister Qingzhu? Fatso was stunned and said angrily, Boss, he actually dared to tease your wife. Even if he's the first prince, we can't tolerate it. Go and kill him. Qin Feiyong's face twitched and he gave Fatso a knock on the head. Ouch! Fatso howled in pain and said, Boss, why did you hit Fat Lord? Is Fat Lord wrong? Qin Feiyong said with a dark face, I'll tell you again. Whether it's Lin Yi or Luo Qingzhu, our relationship is innocent. Explaining is tantamount to covering up. Fatso pursed his lips. Qin Feiyong's veins were bulging. He raised his head and wanted to knock on Fatso's head again. But when he saw Fatso's pitiful look, he couldn't do it. Shizhang said in surprise, Zhang Haoyan, do you know Luo Qingzhu? We've met a few times. Qin Feiyong nodded and said, more than a few times. They are about to get married privately. I guess they will have a baby in a few years. Fatso murmured in a low voice. Ling Yunfei couldn't help but laugh. This Fatso is too funny. Shizhang also couldn't help laughing. I really owe you in my previous life. Qin Feiyong glared at Fatso. He also felt powerless against this bastard. In front, the first prince laughed. Little sister Qingzhu, why are you here? Who is this beautiful lady? Luo Qingzhu smiled faintly. She is a core disciple of the martial imperial palace in Star Moon City, called Zhao Shuang'er. We are only here to play in Yin City, and just happened to hear that you were holding a competition, so we came over to take a look out of curiosity. She then looked at Zhao Shuang'er and introduced him. Little sister Shuang'er, he is the first prince that I mentioned to you before. Shuang'er greets the first prince. Zhao Shuang'er bowed. The first prince waved his hand and laughed. Miss Shuang'er, we are all on the same side. There is no need to be so polite. However, the first prince did not notice that although Luo Qingzhu and Luo Qingzhu were talking to him, their gazes would occasionally sweep towards Qin Feiyong, who was behind them. Qin Feiyong walked over with a faint smile on his face. But suddenly, Lin Hao stood in front of him and said disdainfully, Do you know who she is? Don't try to claim connections. Qin Feiyong was stunned. Luo Qingzhu and Luo Qingzhu were also stunned. Whoosh! A figure swept past the two of them and ran in front of Luo Qingzhu. It was Fatso. He looked at Luo Qingzhu with a fawning smile and said, Sister-in-law, you're finally here. You don't know how much boss misses you. He misses you every day, bastard. Have you had enough? Qin Feiyong angrily roared and went forward to kick him. Fatso hid behind Luo Qingzhu like a wisp of smoke and made a face at him. Sister-in-law? Everyone present was stunned, including the surrounding pedestrians. Luo Qingzhu and Zhao Shuang were the same. Qin Feiyang glared at Fatso, looked at Luo Qingzhu apologetically, and laughed. I'm sorry, he likes to mess around. It's fine, it's fine. Luo Qingzhu shook her head, still unable to react. Messing around? The first prince frowned. It should be. Luo Qingzhu had been in Star Moon City all year round. How could she know Zhang Haoyan? It was even more impossible for them to have such an ambiguous relationship. He smiled and said, Little sister Qingzhu, let me introduce you. He is the famous Zhang Haoyan. This relationship is a bit complicated. Zhao Shuang looked at the first prince and the others, and a strange light flashed in her beautiful eyes. Then, she looked at Zhang Haoyan and said with a playful smile, Long time no see. I heard that you're doing well here, so I discussed with Sister Qingzhu and came to find you to eat and drink. Do you welcome us? Of course you're welcome. Qin Feiyang laughed. The first prince raised his eyebrows and asked, Little sister Qingzhu, do you know each other? Luo Qingzhu finally came back to her senses and nodded. We've known each other for a long time. At that moment, the first prince's expression changed. After all this time, it was just his wishful thinking? Especially Lin Hao, it was as if he had been slapped hard in the face. His face was burning hot. The two of them had known each other for a long time, and their relationship was not shallow. However, he had stood in front of the other party and told the other party not to claim any relationship. This was really ironic. The atmosphere here was a bit awkward. Luo Qingzhu looked at the two groups of people and roughly understood what was going on. She asked, Your Highness, I wonder if I can participate in the competition? The first prince was stunned and asked doubtfully, Why do you want to participate? If you want something, just ask me directly. Luo Qingzhu said with a faint smile, We've known each other for so long. Don't you understand me? I like to rely on my own efforts to fight for it. The first prince hesitated for a moment and nodded. All right, I'll take you to sign up. Brother Jiang, what about you? Are you interested? The rewards this time are very rich. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Since that's the case, I'll give it a try. The first prince and the others were overjoyed. The previous unhappiness was instantly thrown to the back of their minds. They couldn't wait to lead the few people to the square. On the left side of the square, there was a hall. A group of people walked in. In addition to Qin Feiyang, Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, and Zhao Shuang had also signed up. As for Fatso, no matter how Xie Fang provoked him, he had an extremely contemptuous expression. Xie Fang was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Walking out of the hall, Qin Feiyang stood on a step and asked, Your Highness, when will it start? The first prince said with a smile, It can start at any time, but in his heart, he sneered. I'm waiting for you. Qin Feiyang said, Then hurry up. After all, I'm very busy and don't have time to delay here. All right. The first prince nodded and shouted, Commander Su, immediately arrange for the elimination round to begin immediately. Yes. A loud and clear voice sounded. Following closely, a burly man in armor walked out of the main hall with a bold and resolute manner. He jumped a few times and landed on a high platform in front of the square. He shouted, The elimination round is about to begin. Participants, enter the square immediately. At that moment, one by one, the teenagers ran into the square. Those who didn't participate quickly left the square. At the same time, from the gate of the palace, a large group of black-armored guards emerged. They were like a group of lions. They quickly dispersed and stood at the edge of the square, expressionlessly scanning the crowd below. Zhang Haoyan, Ling Yunfei, be careful. Shi Zheng warned, and also left the square with Fatso. Let's go. Qin Feiyang walked down the steps and entered the square. Ling Yunfei followed closely. Luo Qingzhu and Zhao Shuang nodded to the first prince and also entered the square, standing in the crowd. The first prince glanced at Qin Feiyang and warned Wang Xia and Xie Fang, Don't touch him first. On the day of the finals, we'll ruthlessly trample on him, but we can test his depth first. As for the trash next to him, get him out of the arena as soon as possible. He was referring to Ling Yunfei. Understood. Xie Feng and Luo Qingzhu nodded, a cold light flashing in their eyes. Subsequently, Shuiyang and Lin Hao followed behind the first prince and walked up the high platform. The square suddenly quieted down. The first prince stood in the middle of the high platform and glanced at the crowd below. His robe fluttered in the wind, and his whole body emitted the aura of a king. There are a total of more than 1,300 people participating in this competition, but only 10 people can enter the finals. So, everyone must work hard. I also ask everyone to stop before it's too late and try not to do anything to hurt the other party. I believe everyone already knows the prizes of this competition. I won't explain more, just say one thing. In the elimination round, no weapons are allowed. Those who violate this rule will be disqualified. Finished. He retreated to the side with his hands behind his back. Looking at Qin Feiyang in the crowd, he secretly sneered. Without that dagger, I want to see what big waves you can make. Commander Su took a few steps forward and shouted, "Are you all ready?" "We're ready." Thousands of teenagers roared as if they had been injected with chicken blood. For Qin Feiyang, the royal banquet didn't have the slightest attraction. But for the vast majority of people, being able to participate in the royal banquet was a supreme honor. Chapter 184. Let the elimination round begin. Following Commander Su's words, everyone exerted all their strength and attacked the people around them. Bang, bang, bang. Someone won. Someone was bound to be defeated. In an instant, there were endless screams. One by one, the teenagers fell down. Almost in the blink of an eye, half of the people were eliminated. The battle was cruel, especially in this kind of chaotic battle. If one was not careful, one would be attacked and lose the qualification to continue. At the same time, Qin Feiyang was also besieged. Ling Yunfei fought against dozens of people and had the upper hand. Qin Feiyang did not make a move from beginning to end. He stood in the field and glanced at the chaotic crowd. His eyes were as calm as water. How dare you be so arrogant in this chaotic battle? You're courting death. When a tall and sturdy man noticed Qin Feiyang, his eyes immediately flashed with a ruthless look. Seeing that Ling Yunfei was more than 10 meters away and was entangled by two people, he took a step forward and charged towards Qin Feiyang. However, without waiting for him to get close, Ling Yunfei appeared in front of him like a flash of lightning. With a palm strike, the afterimages of 9 huge palms struck towards him, covering the sky and the earth. It was the illusion palm. As soon as Ling Yunfei entered the martial imperial palace, he became a core disciple and had already learned the illusion palm. How is this possible? The burly man's face was filled with disbelief. Previously, he was entangled by others, but in an instant, he rushed over. This speed was too fast. With your little ability, you dare to sneak attack him. Ling Yunfei's eyes were filled with disdain as his palm landed on the burly man's chest. The burly man screamed and was blown away on the spot, spitting out blood. The few unlucky ones behind him were also seriously injured and fell to the ground. Cripple him. A group of teenagers suddenly swarmed towards Ling Yunfei. Cripple me? Since that's the case, don't blame me for being ruthless. Ling Yunfei smiled coldly and punched out with his heart-lock, killing fist. A teenager's heart was shattered, and he fell to the ground dead. What? Dead? The others trembled both physically and mentally as their faces turned ghastly pale. The battlefield needs to be watered with blood. Stop when it's appropriate? That's all bullshit. Ling Yunfei's long sky-blue hair danced behind his head like a waterfall, and his entire body emitted an astonishing aura. Using the origin convergence steps, he was like a hungry wolf that had charged into a flock of sheep. For a moment, this place was in complete chaos. Without exception, those who were struck by him were either killed or injured. His entire body was covered in blood, like a blood-soaked azura. The people around him were scared out of their wits and fled in panic. On the high platform, the eldest prince's shock was clearly written on his face. All this time, he had never taken Ling Yunfei seriously and had only regarded him as a small fry. But he never thought that he would be so strong. It was also at this moment, Qin Feiyang, who hadn't moved for a long time, shook his head and said, "That's all." Previously, he was observing everyone's strength. He wanted to see what kind of opponent the first prince had prepared for him. In the end, he was greatly disappointed. There were more than 1,300 people, and none of them was a martial grandmaster. The highest was a 9-star martial master. Even the number of 9-star martial masters could be counted on one hand. But thinking about it, it made sense. In a small place like the county of Yin, it was rare for someone to step into the martial grandmaster realm before the age of 18. Only a martial arts genius like Fengling Heir could do it. An elimination round without a martial grandmaster was nothing to worry about. It seems that I don't need to take part in this battle. Glancing at Ling Yunfei, Qin Feiyang muttered and turned to look at Luo Qingzhu and Zhao Shuangshuang. His face couldn't help but twitch. Luo Qingzhu and Zhao Shuangshuang stood there motionless, but the people around them acted as if they didn't see anything. No one attacked them. Qin Feiyang was filled with emotions. Beautiful women were treated differently. But he also knew that the biggest reason was Luo Qingzhu's identity. Who would dare to touch the precious daughter of the Precious Treasure Pavilion's pavilion master? Once one was blacklisted by the Precious Treasure Pavilion, it would be worse than being blacklisted by the Danwang Hall, the Martial Imperial Hall, or the royal family. Because as long as one was a martial artist, they needed wealth and resources. The Precious Treasure Pavilion was undoubtedly the source of wealth and resources. Zhang Haoyin, fight me if you dare. Suddenly, a loud and cold shout rang out. A purple-clothed youth appeared extremely valiant as he walked towards Qin Feiyang, as if there was no one around him. Hiding behind Ling Yunfei, what kind of man are you? If you think that you can enter the finals like this, I can tell you very seriously, dream on. At the same time, there were also 3 youths in luxurious clothes. They were like 3 human-shaped tyrannosauruses. They continuously sent people in front of them flying, emitting a strong aura as they pressed towards Qin Feiyang. Their gazes were extremely sharp. Qin Feiyang was stunned and turned his head to look at them one by one. The 4 of them looked slightly mature. They were obviously almost 18 years old and had the strength of a 9-star martial master. In Yin City, they could be considered top geniuses. Seeing this, Zhao Shuang smiled playfully. Zhang Haoyin, do you need help? What do you think? Qin Feiyang grinned. You are still so arrogant. Zhao Shuang rolled her eyes at him. But this kind of man was more charming. Humph. Ling Yunfei snorted and quickly came in front of Qin Feiyang. He glanced at the 4 people and said disdainfully, just 4 trash. You don't need to do anything. I will handle it. Arrogant. The cold light in the eyes of the 4 people surged. Ling Yunfei, arrogance will pay the price. We will fight with you. At this time, Xie Feng and Wang Xia rushed out of the crowd, stepping on the shoulders of the crowd and rushing over. Ling Yunfei said, "It seems that these people have been bribed by the first prince." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, as expected, "Not only them, those who just attacked us probably got a lot of benefits. In that case, we don't need to be merciful." Ling Yunfei sneered. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. It seemed that this guy had never been merciful, right? He asked, "Your strength seems to have become stronger?" "I forgot to tell you. Yesterday, I stepped into the 9-star martial master and finally surpassed you." Ling Yunfei smiled proudly. Surpassed? Qin Feiyang was stunned. The corner of his mouth pursed into a playful smile. He chuckled and said, "Let me tell you a secret. Before I went to Black Bear City, I was already a 9-star martial master." What? Ling Yunfei was dumbfounded. His heart was instantly filled with loss. Surpassing Qin Feiyang had always been his wish. He thought that he had done it this time, but he didn't expect that the other party was still 1 step ahead of him. This feeling was really unbearable. "If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Suddenly, he let out a low roar. His heart was filled with unwillingness and disappointment. It turned into a monstrous battle intent and welcomed the 2 of them. Although he couldn't compare to Qin Feiyang, he was determined to be the number 1 person under Qin Feiyang. What Xie Feng? What Wang Xia? Trample them all under his feet. Bang! Bang! The 3 of them fought crazily. When the others saw this, they retreated one after another, giving them a wide battlefield. They are both 9-star martial masters, but this child is facing 2 opponents alone. His expression doesn't change at all. His battle intent is endless. This Ling Yunfei is very likely to become the second Fengling heir. He entered the martial ancestor realm before the age of 18, the future proud son of Yin County. The crowd below the stage discussed in low voices, their eyes filled with shock. Shi Zheng was also very surprised. He only knew that Ling Yunfei's talent was not bad and that he had a good relationship with Zhang Haoyin. But he didn't expect his talent to be so heaven-defying. He had been in the Martial Imperial Hall for less than a year, and he already had such strength. He might even surpass Fengling heir in the future. Zhao Shuang'er walked to Qin Feiyang and asked curiously, "Where did you find this helper?" Luo Qingzhu said, "He is from the Ling family of Black Bear City. When I went to Black Bear City, I heard that he was called Trash, but now it seems that he doesn't live up to his name." If the Ling family had nurtured him since he was young, his achievements wouldn't be limited to this. Qin Feiyang shook his head and ridiculed. The Ling family probably didn't realize how valuable Ling Yunfei was until they were destroyed. With his talent and potential, even in the imperial capital, he was a top martial arts genius. Even Fengling heir couldn't compare to him. Luo Qingzhu turned to look at Qin Feiyang, a strange light flashing in her beautiful eyes. If she didn't meet this person, Ling Yunfei would still be the trash in Black Bear City. He wouldn't have the chance to shine here today. It could be said that this person was Ling Yunfei's talent scout. But she was very curious. Ling Yunfei had lived in Black Bear City for more than 10 years, and no one had discovered his potential. But how did this person find it at a glance? Was it because he was very good at judging people? Or was it because he had seen too many geniuses? At this time, the 4 well-dressed youths surrounded him. Glancing at Luo Qingzhu and Zhao Shuang'er, one of them said coldly, "Get out of the way." "Okay." Zhao Shuang'er nodded and pulled Luo Qingzhu to the side. After a year, how much had this guy grown? She was really looking forward to it. The 4 people spread out and each took a side, surrounding Qin Feiyang in the center. The youth in purple sneered, "Zhang Haoyin, this young master wants to know if your strength can compare to your alchemy skills. I don't think I will disappoint you." Qin Feiyang put his hands behind his back, with a faint smile on his face. "Return to origin palm." The young master in purple looked cold and suddenly waved his palm, blowing a hurricane. When it blew on his face, there was a pain of skin tearing. This palm, it was really amazing. It had the strength of 13 brute elephants. The Lin family? Qin Feiyang was surprised. He didn't expect that the Lin family was hiding such a genius. Swish. He took a step back, his clothes rustling, and his expression was as calm as water. Illusion palm. Seeing this, the youth behind Qin Feiyang didn't hesitate to slap. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and stepped on the ground, moving to the left. He calmly turned around and looked at that person suspiciously. "Don't say that I'm a traitor. Because you're not a disciple of the Martial Imperial Palace, I don't need to help you. And because you're the biggest threat, I can only join hands with them to eliminate you first." Chapter 185. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang's brows also relaxed. This person was 100% bought by the first prince, but he was too lazy to point it out. He was too lazy to talk nonsense. Overlord Fist. The other 2 youths also attacked Qin Feiyang. Fatso reminded, "Boss, be careful. The Overlord Fist is the perfect martial skill of the royal family. It is said to be very fierce." Commander Su frowned and shouted, "The people outside are not allowed to interrupt." "SK." Fatso disdainfully raised his middle finger. Commander Su's veins were bulging. The commander of the royal guards was actually humiliated by a brat in public. He was really angry. "Fatso, behave." Shizhou scolded in a low voice, then looked at Commander Su and smiled apologetically. "Humph." Commander Su snorted and continued to scan the battlefield. He secretly despised him for doing such an indecent action in public. He really couldn't understand why the Martial Imperial Hall would take in such an uncultured person. On the field, when the 2 youths of the royal family attacked, The two youths of the Lin family and the martial imperial hall immediately surrounded him. The overlord fist was incomparably fierce. The illusion palm was mysterious and unpredictable. The return to origin palm was incomparably fierce. 4 9-star martial masters, 3 perfect martial skills, and their true chi covered the sky and earth, almost cutting off all of Qin Feiyang's escape routes. The first prince and the other two on the high platform couldn't help but smile. Although it was just to test Qin Feiyang's strength, if he could make a fool of himself in front of everyone, it was still something to be happy about. Zhao Shuang frowned and said in a low voice, "Let's go help him." Luo Qingzhu nodded and suddenly grabbed Zhao Shuang and said, "Look at his expression." Expression? Zhao Shuang was stunned. She looked at Qin Feiyang's face and suddenly felt surprised. At this moment, Qin Feiyang's expression didn't have the slightest bit of panic. He was still so calm and relaxed. Where is his confidence? Zhao Shuang was suspicious. If it was someone else, facing the siege of the 4 youths, they would have been scared witless. However, this fellow didn't seem to take it to heart. In the blink of an eye, the 4 of them had ominous glints in their eyes. They were only half a step away from Qin Feiyang. He was about to be beaten up. Whoosh! At this moment, Qin Feiyang took a step forward, and with a strange speed, he passed by the 2 young men from the martial emperor hall and the royal family, leaving the encirclement. That's right. His confidence comes from his auxiliary martial skills. Zhao Shuang's eyes lit up. How could this be? However, the 4 people's expressions suddenly changed. He quickly retracted his hand, but it was too late. The fist and the palm collided with each other. Their faces paled as their arms broke on the spot. In the meantime, like 4 meteorites, they flew out horizontally. Accompanied by a series of banging sounds, it smashed onto the ground more than 10 meters away. Puff! Immediately, a gush of hot blood rushed up to his throat, and he violently spat it out. At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. There were even some people whose eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets. Dead silence. They all thought that this time, Qin Feiyang would lose a layer of skin even if he did not die. But in the end, not only did he dodge it easily, but he also seriously injured the 4 of them without any effort. Even during the entire process, he had his hands behind his back. Everyone could only see calmness, composure, and confidence from him. The smiles on the faces of the eldest prince, Shuayang and Lin Hao also froze. For 9-star martial masters were injured just like that? This was too ridiculous. One had to know that Qin Feiyang had not even made a move yet. At this moment, 2 more screams were heard. Everyone looked over and was stunned once again. Xie Feng and Wang Xia were both defeated by Ling Yunfei. The 2 of them were lying on the ground, their faces as pale as paper. Their bodies were twitching nonstop, and their mouths were foaming with blood. On the other hand, although Ling Yunfei was also injured, his eyes were like torches, and his spirit was hale and hearty. His fighting spirit was even stronger than before. Why did this happen? The eldest prince clenched his hands tightly together, his face gloomy to the extreme. Xie Feng and Wang Xia stood up and stared at Ling Yunfei with eyes full of disbelief. The same cultivation level, the same perfect martial skill. But why were the 2 of them still defeated by Ling Yunfei even when they joined hands? Ling Yunfei looked at the 2 of them with contempt, turned around and walked to Qin Feiyang, and said with an evil smile, "How is it?" "Amazing." Qin Feiyang gave him a thumbs up. Ling Yunfei twisted his arm and chuckled. "I haven't had enough fun yet. Don't make a move next. I alone am enough to deal with them." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "Didn't you see? I haven't made a move yet." Ugh. Ling Yunfei was stunned. Looking at Qin Feiyang's hands behind his back, he immediately laughed out loud. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. In such a chaotic battlefield, the 2 of them still had the mood to talk and laugh there. It was enough to see how confident they were in themselves, and how disdainful they were to the other contestants. It was as if in their eyes, this competition was just a boring game. The eldest prince and the other 2 on the high platform, Xie Feng and the other 5 on the field, were all red in the face, because Ling Yunfei's laughter was too ear-piercing. It was simply mocking their incompetence. Xiefeng and the other 5 looked at each other from a distance, and at the same time, they took out a supreme-grade healing pill and a bone-replenishing pill and consumed it. A shocking cold light flashed in their eyes. Fatso cried out, "Aya!" Some people fought with Jiang Laoda, and in the end, they even took the pills refined by Jiang Laoda. Isn't this embarrassing? Fat Lord thinks that he is already very shameless, but I didn't expect that there would be someone more shameless than Fat Lord. No, it should be called despicable. In front of countless people, Fatso ridiculed without restraint, and his saliva splattered everywhere. Xiefeng and the other 5 looked at him in unison, and their eyes were filled with murderous intent. Commander Su also looked at Fatso and said gloomily, "I've already said that the people outside the field are not allowed to interrupt. Did you forget? Do you want me to teach you a lesson?" "Lord Commander, you're in the wrong here. Did you hear Fat Lord mention names? Fat Lord is talking about some people. It could be him, or it could be him. How can you be so sure that Fat Lord is talking about the people on the field?" "Sir Commander, you represent the royal family. Is it really okay to make things out of nothing and slander others?" Fatso said earnestly. "I made things out of nothing? I slandered others?" Commander Su was stunned when he heard it. When he came to his senses, a strong anger suddenly rose from his body. Fatso shrunk his neck and hid behind Shizhong. He stuck his head out and said with a trembling voice, "Sir Commander, Fat Lord is just talking about the facts. Don't bully others with your power." "Damn Fatso, get over here and accept your death." Commander Su was seething with anger. "Bullying the weak? What kind of man are you?" Fatso said angrily. This time, on the contrary, Fatso became the focus of everyone's attention. Even those teenagers who were fighting on the field stopped and looked at Fatso speechlessly. How could there be such a person in the world? Commander Su clenched his hands, and his whole body was trembling with anger. "I can't take it anymore." Suddenly, he let out an angry roar and jumped down from the high platform. Then, he rushed towards the fatty with a ferocious aura. "Look, the palace commander is bullying others. The face of the royal family has been lost by him." Fatso hurriedly shouted. The eldest prince shouted, "Commander Su, come back." However, Commander Su turned a deaf ear to him. He only had eyes for Fatso and wanted to cut him into pieces. "I told you to come back. Didn't you hear me?" The eldest prince shouted. Commander Su quivered and suddenly came back to his senses. At that moment, his whole body was dripping with cold sweat. He secretly cursed. How could he be so stupid? If he really made a move here, then he would be knowingly breaking the law, which would add to his crime. This damned fat pig really had sinister intentions. Phew. He let out a long breath, turned around and jumped onto the high platform, bowed and said, "I was confused for a moment. Please forgive me, Your Highness." The eldest prince waved his hand and said, "Step aside." "Yes." Commander Su responded respectfully and retreated behind the eldest prince. He raised his head and looked at Fatso. The murderous intent in his eyes was not concealed at all. "Count yourself lucky." Fatso snorted coldly. Don't think that he was really fooling around. In fact, he was very smart. The eldest prince took a step forward and coldly glanced at the square below. More than 1,300 people until now, only 50 or 60 people were left. Except for Qin Feiyang, Luo Qinxue, and Zhao Shuanger, the others were all injured. He silently calculated in his heart and shouted, "Continue!" At the same time, he gave a look to Xiefeng and the others. The battle immediately began. But Xiefeng and the others did not deal with Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei anymore. Like hungry tigers pouncing on sheep, they rushed to kill the others. "What's going on?" Ling Yunfei was a little stunned. "Isn't it because we're afraid of you?" Luo Qingzhu and Zhao Shuanger walked over with a faint smile on their faces. "Afraid of us?" Ling Yunfei was slightly stunned, and then suddenly understood and said with an evil smile, "It's normal to be afraid of us." "Normal?" Luo Qingzhu and Zhao Shuanger were a little speechless. This person was really narcissistic. These kind of pampered young masters and young ladies will not understand the taste of people like us who crawled out from a pile of corpses. Ling Yunfei coldly laughed. That's true. Zhao Shuang'er nodded. One was pampered since childhood. The other lived on the edge of life and death since childhood. The difference between the two was not just a little, especially the temperament and the state of the battle. While the four were chatting, Xiefeng and the others soon eliminated the rest of the participants. Although they were not the opponents of Qin Feiyang and Luo Qianxue, but to deal with the other youths, they could completely crush them. At this point, on the blood-stained square, only Qin Feiyang and the others were left. The eldest prince walked to the edge of the high platform and glanced at the 10 people. His gaze locked onto Ling Yunfei, and he coldly said, "Your right to participate in the competition is revoked." Revoked? Ling Yunfei frowned and asked, "Why?" The eldest prince said, "I already said that you should stop when the time is right, but you ignored my order and deliberately harmed people's lives. Shouldn't you be disqualified? If I don't revoke your right, how can I convince the others?" Xiefeng and the others immediately laughed at his misfortune. What a joke. Qin Feiyang suddenly sneered and walked in front of Ling Yunfei, looked up at the eldest prince, and said lightly, "Your Highness, think about it again." What did you say? Chapter 186. You can't remember? Then let me remind you. You said that everyone should stop when it's appropriate and try not to harm each other's lives. Your Highness, do you need me to explain the meaning of try not to harm each other? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, but there was a hint of mockery at the corner of his mouth. Fatso, who was outside the arena, could not help but nod and say, "That's right. You didn't say that we had to stop when it's appropriate. What right do you have to disqualify Ling Yunfei?" He added, "Is it because you're the first prince?" There was a cold glint in the first prince's eyes as he said faintly, "You're right, but you can't kill people as you wish." As you wish? I don't agree with that. When those people said that they were going to cripple Ling Yunfei, why didn't you jump out and disqualify them? If your Highness thinks that this is a competition organized by you and that you can do whatever you want, then I don't think there's any need for this competition to continue. Your Highness, it seems that I've offended you. Ling Yunfei, let's go. We've had enough fun. It's time to go back." Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and walked out of the arena without hesitation. Ling Yunfei shook his head and laughed mockingly, then followed him out. Looking at the backs of the two, the first prince's face was almost distorted. "All right, just pretend that I didn't say anything. Gather here 8 days later in the morning. Those who are late will be disqualified immediately," he said coldly, then turned and whispered a few words in Shui Yang's ear. Then, he led Lin Hao into the palace. It was obvious that he was extremely angry now. Clowns. Qin Feiyang sneered inwardly. He stopped and turned to look at the palace gate, his eyes flickering. Zhao Shuang'er followed Qin Feiyang's gaze and patted him on the shoulder in annoyance. She said unhappily, "What are you looking at? We came all the way here to find you. Are you going to leave us here?" "Find me?" Qin Feiyang was taken aback. He turned his head and looked at the two women in surprise. "What do you think? We don't have the time to visit Yin City." Zhao Shuang'er rolled her eyes at him. "Then why are you here?" Qin Feiyang looked at them in confusion, then chuckled and said, "Could it be that you missed me so much that you came to throw yourself into my arms? I'm a little flattered." The two women looked at each other and gritted their teeth as they looked at him. Ling Yunfei's face twitched uncontrollably. She didn't expect this fellow to have such an indecent side. Cough, cough. Qin Feiyang coughed and smiled. "It's just a joke. Don't take it seriously. You really haven't changed at all. You're still the same bastard." Luo Qianxue rolled her eyes at him and said calmly, "Actually, it was mother who sent me and sister Shuang to testify for you." "And Shui?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. A string in his heart was touched, and he couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. At this moment, Shui Yang walked over and cupped his hands with a smile. "Miss Qingzhu, the first prince invites you to the palace for a chat, and this is Miss Shuang." Luo Qingzhu frowned and said apologetically, "I'm sorry. Please tell him that I still have some private matters to deal with. I'll go and talk to him another day." Shui Yang glanced at Qin Feiyang and smiled. "Okay, I'll tell him the truth." Luo Qingzhu tugged at Qin Feiyang's sleeve. After Qin Feiyang came back to his senses, He glanced at Shuiyang and turned to walk toward Fatso and Shizheng. Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, and Zhao Shuang quickly followed.
Boss.
Fatso came up and said flatteringly, "Are you satisfied with Fat Lord's performance just now?" "Very satisfied. Keep it up." Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a smile. Ling Yunfei put his arm around Fatso's shoulder and said with admiration, "Brother Fatty, I'm not convinced of anything but your mouth. It's too sharp and too awesome. I'm afraid that no one in Yin City will dare to provoke you in the future." Of course, Fat Lord's mouth is tempered thousands of times. If anyone is not convinced, come and fight. Fatso strode forward with his head held high and glanced at the crowd below the square. He had the attitude of a master of words. At this moment, a large number of people fled. See, Fat Lord is not to be trifled with. Fatso looked at Qin Feiyang and the others proudly. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. The people who were in the limelight today were undoubtedly Ling Yunfei and Fatso. Ling Yunfei would definitely become the brightest star in Yin City in the future. As for Fatso, although his strength was not great, his mouth alone was enough to make anyone tremble in fear. In their hearts, Fatso was probably one of the people who should not be offended. Suddenly, a group of people surrounded them. They stood in front of Qin Feiyang and the others. "What do you want?" Shi Zhang stood in front of Qin Feiyang and looked at them vigilantly. "Elder Shi, don't misunderstand. We are here to thank young Master Jiang." An old man in front hurriedly said, "Young Master Jiang, my father has been suffering from internal injuries all these years. Ordinary healing pills can't cure him at all. Seeing his body getting worse day by day, I thought there was no hope. But a few days ago, I received a supreme healing pill from this fat brother. After taking it back and giving it to him, his internal injuries were healed. Young Master Jiang, you are my father's savior. Please accept my 3 bows." A middle-aged man in tattered clothes walked out of the crowd with tears in his eyes. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed. Qin Feiyang hurriedly ran down and helped him up. He smiled and said, "Big brother, a word of thanks is enough. There is no need for such a big bow." It could be seen that this person's family was not well off. His strength was not strong. He belonged to the lowest class of people in Yin City. To Qin Feiyang, a peak-quality healing pellet was something he could easily refine. However, to this person, it might be an extravagant hope. The middle-aged man was very excited and said, "Young Master Jiang, in fact, we have wanted to thank you in person for a long time, but we never had the chance." "Yes, you were too busy. Young Master Jiang, you are much better than those people from the famous families. You are so young, but your heart is so kind. God will bless you." Yes, good people will definitely be rewarded. Everyone's face was full of grateful smiles. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Thank you, everyone. I will continue to distribute pills to help more people." Young Master is so kind. The people of Yin City are blessed. Everyone was overjoyed. The middle-aged man said loudly, "Everyone, quiet down and listen to me. Young Master Jiang is very busy. Let's not waste too much of his time." "Yes, yes, yes. Everyone, move aside and let young Master Jiang pass. Take care, young master. Farewell, young Master Jiang." The people retreated to the side and bowed to send him off. This scene shook the hearts of everyone in the square. Commander Su, Shuiyang, the black armored guards, Shizheng, Luo Qingzhu, and Zhao Shuang were all present. They did not expect the current Qin Feiyang to be so popular. He was afraid that as long as he said a word, half of the people in Yin City would stand on his side. After Qin Feiyang's group left, Shuiyang, Xiefang, and the others looked at each other and quickly turned to enter the palace. In a dazzling hall, the eldest prince sat on the golden throne with his head lowered and said nothing. His face was gloomy as water. Lin Hao stood on the left side of the throne. His face was also ashen. "Greetings, Your Highness." Shuiyang and the others walked into the hall and bowed. The eldest prince raised his head and looked at them, anger boiling in his heart. Shuiyang's heart trembled as he tactfully walked to Lin Hao's side. Xiefang and the others did not dare to move. They lowered their heads, not daring to look directly at the eldest prince. What a bunch of useless trash. You can't even force Jiang Haoyan to make a move. What can I expect from you? The eldest prince's anger finally exploded as he pointed at the six and cursed. Xie Feng hurriedly said, "Your Highness, please listen to my explanation." Explanation? You swore to me that you could kill Jiang Haoyan, but what happened in the end? You can't even kill Ling Yunfei. What else do you have to explain? The eldest prince suddenly stood up and rushed to Xie Feng, shouting. Xie Feng lowered his head again, his face pale. And you? What did you say in front of me? Ling Yunfei is just a piece of trash, not worth mentioning. And now? Tell me, who is the trash? The eldest prince glanced at Wang Xia and the others and sneered. Wang Xia and the others were even more ashamed. They also did not expect that this unknown person was actually so ridiculously strong. The eldest prince glanced coldly at the six and returned to the golden throne. He looked at Shuiyang and said, "Why isn't Luo Qingzhu here?" Shuiyang said, "She said that she has some private matters to deal with and will come to find you another day. But according to my observation, her so-called private matters might be about Jiang Haoyan." Smack! The eldest prince angrily slapped the armrest of the throne. Why was it that no matter where he was or who he met, it was always related to this bastard? There's one more thing. Now, the people of Yin City have a good impression of Jiang Haoyan. Shuiyang recounted the scene he saw in the square in detail. So, he gave out free pills to please the people of Yin City? Lin Hao frowned. It can't be that simple. The eldest prince shook his head. Lin Hao and the others looked at the eldest prince in surprise. Why don't you think that as a peak-grade alchemist with the Martial Imperial Hall as his backing, does he need to please those ordinary people? Moreover, he doesn't seem like a charitable person. There must be some unspeakable secret. Xinchang, have you heard anything from the Martial Imperial Hall? The eldest prince looked at the disciple of the Martial Imperial Hall and asked. Xinchang thought for a moment and shook his head. No. I even went to inquire about it, but even Fatso and Lu Hong, who are closest to Jiang Haoyan, don't know the reason. Even they don't know? The eldest prince and the others were in disbelief. Your Highness, you don't have to worry about this matter. It doesn't matter if he has a purpose. I don't believe that ordinary people can threaten us. Xinchang said with disdain. That's true. The eldest prince nodded and glanced at them. He waved his hand and said, You guys go back first. I need to think about how to make Jiang Haoyan fall into eternal damnation in the finals. After thinking for a moment, he added, Also, pay attention to Jiang Haoyan's whereabouts in the next few days. Yes. Shuiyang and the others bowed in response before turning around and leaving with large strides. Only Lin Hao remained behind. Chapter 187. Flying Phoenix House. In a luxurious pavilion, Qin Feiyang and the others gathered together. Zhao Shua looked at Qin Feiyang with a complicated expression and shook her head. When I first met you, I really didn't expect you to be a top-grade alchemist. Qin Feiyang picked up his wine glass, sipped it gently, and said with a faint smile, At that time, even I didn't know that I had talent in alchemy. Zhao Shuanger said, In short, your current achievements are really beyond my expectations. Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, What about you? Is everything going well in Xingyue City? Quite well. At that time, I passed the assessment very easily. In less than 2 months, I became a core disciple again. Of course, I have to thank Sister Qingzhu for giving me the Qi gathering pill and letting me use the cultivation room. My cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. A few days ago, I took the top-grade red fire glass pill you gave me, and now I'm barely a 9-star martial master. Zhao Shuang smiled playfully. 9-star martial master. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other, their eyes full of disbelief. Zhao Shuang was about the same age as them. She had also broken through to 9-star martial master. How could these men endure it? You relied on your own efforts, and I relied on the guidance of the law enforcement elder. We can't be compared. Zhao Shuang said modestly. The law enforcement elder also gave me a lot of guidance. Ling Yunfei smiled bitterly. Qin Feiyang looked at Zhao Shuang and then at Ling Yunfei. Ling Yunfei had been suppressed since he was young, which delayed his cultivation. Although Zhao Shuang didn't have such an experience, she was just a disciple of a little guy in Iron Ox Town, and her cultivation conditions were not much better. It seemed that the martial arts talent of the two was not much different. He looked at Luo Qingzhu again. She had been a proud daughter of heaven since she was young, and she had been doted on by thousands of people. Her starting point was not much higher than Ling Yunfei's, and her strength should be stronger than theirs. Zhao Shuang joked, "Sister Qingzhu's cultivation realm, you'd better not know, so as not to be shocked." "So powerful?" Stunned, Fatso asked curiously, "Tell me about it." "Two-star martial ancestor," Zhao Shuang said. "Suck." Other than Qin Feiyang, everyone sucked in a cold breath. They guessed that Luo Qingzhu's cultivation was definitely not low. After all, her status was there. But who would have thought that he would be so ridiculously strong? "Zhang Haoyin, did you suffer a blow?" Zhao Shuang giggled. "It's all right." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. His heart was not that weak. Furthermore, if it weren't for the fact that he had wasted too much time copying the Huan formula, his current cultivation might have already caught up with Fengling Air. The few of them chatted until midnight before leaving the Flying Phoenix Pavilion. In the following 8 days, Qin Feiyang completely let go of his worries. Sometimes he would go out with Fengling Air to relax, and sometimes he would go shopping with Luo Qingzhu and Zhao Shuang. Don't say it. After a few days, he felt more relaxed than ever. On the night before the finals, Qin Feiyang came to the law enforcement hall alone. "What's the matter?" In the lounge, Elder Wan sat by the tea table and looked at Qin Feiyang in confusion. Qin Feiyang said, "I want to see the hall master." "See the hall master?" Elder Wan was stunned and asked doubtfully, "Why do you want to see him?" Qin Feiyang said truthfully, "I want to use the hall master's power to open the door of potential." Elder Wan's face twitched and said disdainfully, "Kid, don't daydream. Go back and cultivate." "Elder, I'm not joking." Qin Feiyang was a little helpless. Indeed, the door of potential was difficult to open, but there was no need to be so disdainful. Elder Wan was completely frozen. After a long time, he came back to his senses. He got up and walked in front of Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "Haoyin, this old man knows that your martial arts talent is not worse than your alchemy talent, but this kind of unrealistic thing, it's better not to delude yourself, okay?" Qin Feiyang had a wry smile on his face. He really wanted to tear off his clothes and let Elder Wan see the potential mark on his chest. However, he couldn't help but have this impulse. He smiled faintly and said, "Elder, it's because of this that I have to pursue higher things, so that I won't let down the talent that God has given me. Why are you so stubborn? I'm doing this for your own good. Can't you just listen to me?" Elder Wan was a little angry. Qin Feiyang said, "If I don't do it now, I will definitely regret it in the future. But this is unrealistic, do you understand?" Elder Wan blew his beard and glared at him, extremely angry. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "Where there is a will, there is a way. If you don't try, who knows what will happen in the end? Elder, this junior doesn't want to leave any regrets. Please help me." Elder Wan was physically and mentally exhausted. He could be considered to have seen countless people, but this was the first time he had met such a stubborn kid. "Follow me." Looking at Qin Feiyang helplessly, Elder Wan turned around and walked out. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed and quickly followed. If it was in the imperial capital, there would be no need to go through so much trouble, because in the imperial capital, there was a place specially set up to open the door to potential. As long as one met the conditions, they could enter and give it a try. However, there were very few people who could successfully open it, not to mention someone like him, who wanted to break through the limit of this realm every time he reached a new realm. So, he could only go to the Palace Master for help. The Palace Master of the Martial Imperial Palace was at least an 8-star war emperor. If he fully released his pressure, it would be enough to give him a strong sense of oppression. Of course, Elder Wan and Elder Ji could do it too. However, Qin Feiyang wanted to be safer. A moment later, Elder Wan led Qin Feiyang to a courtyard. All around, the scenery of the mountains and rivers was pleasant. This was the most secluded corner of the Martial Imperial Palace. It was also the forbidden area of the Martial Imperial Palace. Other than Elder Wan and Elder Ji, no one dared to step in. Elder Wan said loudly, "Palace Master, Zhang Haoyan wants to see you. Bring him in." Not long later, a calm voice rang out from the pavilion within the courtyard. When the two of them entered the living room of the pavilion, they saw the martial imperial palace master sitting in front of the tea table with a faint smile on his face. "Greetings, Palace Master." Qin Feiyong cupped his hands and bowed. "What's the matter?" the martial imperial palace master asked doubtfully. "It's like this," Elder once simply explained. "Open the door of potential?" The martial imperial palace master was extremely surprised. Qin Feiyong was also quite nervous. Boom. All of a sudden, a monstrous pressure roared out from the martial imperial palace master's body. Qin Feiyong immediately felt that the surrounding space seemed to be frozen. He couldn't even move his feet. Even the blood in his body stopped flowing. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. Gradually, he began to feel suffocated. The veins and blood vessels all over his body were exposed from under his skin. His facial features were almost distorted, making him look somewhat sinister. Fortunately, at this moment, the martial imperial palace master retracted his pressure. Qin Feiyong directly laid on the ground, gasping for breath. On his forehead, there were bean-sized beads of sweat dripping onto the ground. His face was also as pale as paper. The martial imperial palace master said, "How do you feel my pressure?" "Who?" Qin Feiyong let out a long breath, stood up, looked at him, and nodded. "Very strong." One had to know. He was only a 9-star martial master right now. How could he withstand the pressure of an 8-star war emperor? The martial imperial palace master shook his head and said, "Although my pressure is very strong, it is still unable to help you break through the warrior's extreme realm. In the end, it is very likely that you will die under my pressure." Elder Wan nodded and said, "That's right. If this method worked, all the disciples of our martial imperial palace would have already opened the door of potential. So, you should give up." No one understood these principles better than Qin Feiyong, because in the past, he had tried countless times in the imperial capital, but he had failed every time. But now, he was full of confidence. Qin Feiyong cupped his hands and said, "Palace Master, I want to try my best." The martial imperial palace master was stunned. Originally, he thought that after explaining the pros and cons, this kid would give up. He didn't expect that he would insist on doing so. "Old Wan, you were right. This kid has a stubborn temper." He looked at Elder Wan and said helplessly. Elder Wan smiled bitterly. The martial imperial palace master looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "All right, since you won't cry until you enter the coffin, I will fulfill your wish. Are you ready?" Qin Feiyong shook his head and said, "Not now, but tomorrow at the first prince's wedding ceremony." "What? You want to do this at the first prince's wedding ceremony?" The two of them were dumbfounded. Wasn't this clearly trying to steal the first prince's limelight? What the hell was this little bastard thinking in his head? "Kid, you better think carefully. It would be best if you succeed, because you will create a miracle and your name will spread throughout the world. But if you fail, not only will you offend the royal family, you will also become the laughingstock of the world." Elder Wan tried his best to persuade him. "I've thought it through." Qin Feiyong clenched his fists and said word by word with determination in his eyes. The two of them looked at each other, and the helplessness in their hearts couldn't be described with words. The martial imperial palace master said, "All right, I'll go crazy with you this time. I hope you can really do it. Also, don't forget your promise with Elder Ji." "Promise?" Qin Feiyong was stunned. "I knew you were going to act shamelessly." Elder once stared at him and snorted. "Let me remind you. You said that as long as we invite you to join the martial imperial palace tomorrow, you will nod your head and agree." Qin Feiyong slapped his head and nodded. "That is indeed the case. Please don't worry. I will not go back on my words." He. The two of them laughed. Because they couldn't think of a reason not to invite him. Qin Feiyong thanked him and turned around to leave. Back at the soothing lake, he stood by the lakeside and looked at the calm surface of the lake. His eyes gradually became sharp. Fatso and Lu Hong walked to his side. Fatso smiled. "Boss, tomorrow is the day of the showdown. Are you ready?" But even if you fail and live a life of running for your life, we will continue to follow you. Thank you. Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them with a gentle gaze. Fatso said unhappily, "Why are you thanking us? Aren't you being too polite?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. "Your main task tomorrow is to watch Lin Chong. Before I say anything, don't let him come out and cause trouble." "No problem." The two of them nodded. At the same time, Wolf King in the ancient castle became excited. Chapter 188. The three of them stood by the lake for the whole night. Apart from the initial conversation, they did not say anything else. The morning sun rose. Everything came back to life. Qin Feiyang looked up at the sky and muttered, "I hope everything will go as I wish." He retracted his gaze and looked at Fatso. "Call Lin Chong out and get ready to go." "Okay." Fatso turned and ran into the attic. After a while, he walked out with Lin Chong. "Are you confident?" Lin Chong hurried to Qin Feiyang and asked in a low voice. "No one is confident in this kind of thing." Qin Feiyang said lightly and walked toward the wooden bridge. Shi Zheng also jumped down from the balcony and followed closely behind him. The square outside the palace. At this moment, the place was decorated with lanterns and colored banners and loud music. There was a red carpet on the ground that led to the center of the square. There were dozens of chairs neatly placed there. Beside each chair was a wooden table that was exquisitely carved. Plates of fragrant and sweet fruits were placed on top of the table. Of course, wine was indispensable. Outside the square, before dawn, there was a sea of people gathered. All around, the palace guards were like javelins. Their bodies were straight and their eyes were sharp. The long spears in their hands were shining with shocking sharpness. Commander Su and Lin Hao stood at the entrance of the square, welcoming the guests with smiles on their faces. "Family Head Chi has arrived. Family Head Li has arrived. Family Head He has arrived." The first to arrive were the family heads of the major families in Yin City. Beside them were one or two teenagers or young men. After all, this was a good opportunity to curry favor with the eldest prince. Xiefeng and the other five had already arrived. They gathered at the side and discussed in low voices. "Why isn't Zhang Haoyin here yet?" "Don't worry, he will come." "That's right. All the big shots in Yin City will be here today. He won't miss this good opportunity to perform. In the arena later, I must make him kneel and beg for mercy." A cold light flashed in their eyes. Whoosh! At this moment, a few figures broke through the air and landed in the center of the square. They were Jiang Zhengyi, Manager Li, Luo Qingzhu, and Zhao Shuanger. Lin Hao hurriedly stepped forward and cupped his fists. "Pavilion Master Jiang, Manager Li, please take a seat." Pavilion Master Jiang nodded. Big shots like him and Manager Li naturally sat in the first row. The patriarchs of the clans who had arrived first also stood up to welcome them. As for the young people, their gazes wandered around Luo Qingzhu and Zhao Shuanger's bodies. They were filled with amazement. A short while later, Ma Cheng, Jia He, and Elder He also arrived. Shuiyang, Wang Xia, and Xiefeng immediately ran to their side. Lin Hao walked to Xinchang's side and said in a low voice, "Xinchang, what is your Martial Imperial Hall doing? Why isn't he here yet?" Just as Xinchang was about to speak, he suddenly raised his head to look at the distant sky and said in a low voice, "They're here." Lin Hao looked up. Decisively, several figures streaked across the sky and landed on the square. They were the Martial King Hall's Hall Master, Elder Wan, and Elder Ji. Beside him were Qin Feiyang, Feng Ling Er, Ling Yunfei, Fatso, and Shi Zheng. Greetings to the three lords. Greetings to the Hall Master. Greetings to the two elders. Lin Hao and Shan Cheng hurriedly ran over and bowed. The Martial King Hall's Hall Master glanced at Shan Cheng and said indifferently, "Although there are some things that I don't object to, sometimes you have to distinguish your own position." Shan Cheng's body stiffened. It was obvious. He had helped the first prince to deal with Qin Feiyang, which had already caused the Hall Master's dissatisfaction. Lin Hao's eyes flashed slightly as he smiled. "Lords, please take a seat." The Martial King Hall's Hall Master turned around and glanced at the people on the seats. He walked straight to Jiang Zhengyi's side and deliberately distanced himself from the three heads of the Danwang Hall. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice, Fatso, you guys go outside. And Fatso and Lu Hong nodded and led Lin Cheng out of the square, standing in the first row of the crowd. Shi Zheng was also beside the three of them. Qin Feiyang, Ling Yunfei, and Feng Ling Er turned around and walked behind Elder Wan and the other two, standing side by side. Xinchang hesitated for a moment and also walked over. But no one paid attention to him. They directly treated him as heir, making him feel very awkward. Jiang Jingyi chatted with the Martial King Hall's hall master for a while, then turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, I heard from my daughter that you guys know each other? Qin Feiyang nodded. Manager Li smiled and asked, Brother Jiang, now can you tell us what kind of pill you are going to refine? As soon as these words came out, Qin Feiyang became the focus of attention. Jiang Jingyi was very curious. The Martial King Hall's hall master and the other two were very puzzled. The others felt a chill in their hearts as they looked at Qin Feiyang one after another. Their eyes carried a trace of flattery. Ma Cheng and the other two in the Danwang Hall looked a little gloomy. They were all alchemy masters and the leaders of the Danwang Hall. But now when it came to pills, the first thing that came to everyone's mind was Qin Feiyang, not them. This made them feel very embarrassed, and jealousy rose in their hearts. Qin Feiyang glanced at the crowd, then looked at Manager Li and the others and said with a smile, This is a secret. Manager Li immediately rolled his eyes. However, his words piqued everyone's curiosity. So secretive. Could it be that he had refined some amazing pill again? Everyone pondered in their hearts. It seemed that they had to find a chance to build a relationship with this person. Ling Yunfei walked to Xinchang and whispered, Can you tell us how the first prince is going to deal with us today? I don't know. Xinchang shook his head. Ling Yunfei smiled evilly and said, For him, you don't even care about the friendship of your sect. How can you not know? I don't want to talk nonsense with you. If you have the ability, let's meet in the arena, Xinchang said in a low voice. At this moment, Elder Wan and Elder Ji turned to look at Xinchang. Their eyes were very calm. But Xinchang immediately lowered his head, his heart at a loss. Ling Yunfei lifted the corner of his mouth and pursed a trace of sarcasm. He walked to Qin Feiyang and whispered to Luo Qingzhu and the others. King Yin has arrived. King Yin has arrived. Not long after, accompanied by a loud and clear voice, the King of Yin and the eldest prince walked out of the palace, surrounded by a group of maidservants. Both father and son looked very happy today. The first prince was wearing a brand new golden robe, and a belt embroidered with gold was tied around his waist. He looked particularly energetic. He followed behind King Yin and bowed to everyone one by one. But when he saw Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei, a cold light flashed in his eyes. King Yin walked to the front and said with a smile, Thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend my son's wedding ceremony. If there is anything that is not satisfactory, please forgive me. Next, it was inevitable for them to be polite. Qin Feiyang had seen too many of such scenes, and he was conflicted from the bottom of his heart. Especially when he saw those hypocritical faces, his heart was full of disgust. The first prince walked to Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, Brother Jiang, have you finished refining the elixirs? Of course. Qin Feiyang smiled, took out a jade box from his arms, and handed it over. The first prince opened it and took a look. There were exactly 5 supreme-grade red fire-glaze elixirs. At the same time, the eyes of the young people of the big families also became scorching hot. Everyone wanted the supreme-grade red fire-glaze elixirs, but few people could afford the high price. The most important thing was, even if they had the money, they might not be able to buy it. Because the quantity was too rare, even the treasure pavilion did not have any stock. The first prince put away the jade box and said with a smile, Thank you, Brother Jiang. There is one more thing I want to ask Brother Jiang. Even if Brother Jiang is defeated in the finals, you must come to the royal banquet. Okay, Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Then it's settled. The first prince smiled and turned to talk with the young people of the other families. Feng Ling Er said, It seems that he thinks that you will be defeated. Qin Feiyang looked at Xiefeng and the other 6 people and said with a smile, Then let's wait and see. Zhao Shuang looked around and said, The groom is here. Why hasn't the bride come yet? I really want to see Yi's appearance now. Although the Zhao family and the Lin family had disputes over interests, they were also good friends. Ling Yunfei shook his head and said, "It's not you who is getting married. Why are you in such a hurry?" Zhao Shuang'er was about to speak. Chirp. But suddenly, a loud eagle cry sounded in the sky and spread in all directions. Everyone stopped talking and looked up. They saw a huge iron eagle, spreading its wings and soaring from a distance. Seeing the iron eagle, everyone knew who it was, because only the Lin family's mount was an iron eagle. And this iron eagle was the mount of the Lin family's family master, Lin Han. Although Yin City had rules that prohibited flying beasts, today was a special day. No one would blame the Lin family for doing this. However, no one noticed it. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a cold light. When he was in Iron Ox Town, this iron eagle also chased after him. Woo-woo. With a gust of wind, the iron eagle landed on the square. 4 people stood on its back. The leader was a red-haired old man. He had his hands behind his back, his eyes were bright, and his whole body exuded a strong aura. Lin Han and Lin Yi stood behind the old man. On the right side of Lin Yi, there was a charming lady. The eldest prince strode over and bowed to the red-haired old man. "Greetings, Senior Lin." The red-haired old man stepped on the ground and said with a smile, "Today is your wedding with Yi. Let's skip these customs. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and take Yi." "Yes, yes." The eldest prince nodded repeatedly and reached out to pull Lin Yi. However, to everyone's surprise, Lin Yi deliberately avoided him and walked down from the iron eagle's back. The smile on the eldest prince's face suddenly froze. Lin Han frowned and said with a smile, "Eldest prince, don't mind her. After all, there are so many people. It's normal for Yi to be shy." The eldest prince regained his smile and nodded. "Uncle is right." He bowed to the lady again. "Greetings, auntie." The lady smiled and said, "You should change the way you address me later." "Change the way I address you?" Qin Feiyang's eyes turned cold. "I'm afraid this address will never be changed." At the same time, Lin Chong, who was outside the square, clenched his hands together tightly. His face was full of resentment. Originally, the person standing next to Yi at this moment should be him. But now, as her biological father, he could only watch from the sidelines. He hated it. Chapter 189. Fatso pressed his shoulder and whispered, "Behave yourself. If you ruin the boss's plan, even if the boss doesn't kill you, Fat Lord will kill you." Lu Hong whispered, "You don't have to kill him. When his identity is exposed, the first person to kill him will be Lin Han." Hearing this, Lin Chong trembled physically and mentally. He immediately dispelled the thought in his heart. In the square, Lin Yi followed Lin Han and the others, walking along the red carpet towards King Yin. She wore a golden floor-length dress with a headdress like a phoenix coronet on her head. She was less pure and more noble than before. However, there was not the slightest bit of joy on her delicate face. Even that pair of lively eyes seemed a little empty at this moment. She was married, but the person she was going to marry was not him. She really hoped that he could suddenly appear and take her away. She would follow him without hesitation. No matter what hardships she would experience in the future, she was willing to do so. But she knew that this was an extravagant hope. He might have forgotten her. He might have even forgotten that today was the day she got married to another man. Like a walking corpse, she followed Lin Han and bowed to one unfamiliar face after another. Even when she saw her former good friend, Zhao Shuang'er, her eyes were dull. When she passed by Qin Feiyang, she didn't realize that this was the man she wanted to see. Sigh. Zhao Shuang'er sighed secretly. It was obvious how much Lin Yi hated this wedding. However, she, who had no status and no strong background, could only choose to obey. The world was so cruel. But fortunately, Qin Feiyang came. This wedding was destined to be unsuccessful. Qin Feiyang was also distressed. The original Lin Yi was so simple and kind. But now, these were no longer on her face. He wanted to stand up now and stop this unequal wedding. But reason told him that now was not the time. Ling Yunfei glanced at him and whispered, "I know you love her very much, but don't be impulsive." Qin Feiyang nodded. After a while, after Lin Yi saluted, She followed Lin Han and sat on the main seat. The king of Yin looked at the eldest prince and smiled. Didn't you organize a competition? Since everyone is here, let's begin. Yes. The first prince replied respectfully. He got up and strode to the center of the square. He looked around in high spirits. I believe that everyone has been looking forward to this finals for a long time. I'm the same as everyone else. I'm really looking forward to seeing which young genius will be able to suppress everyone and take the first place. I won't talk about anything else. I'll just talk about the rules of the finals. First, you are not allowed to kill anyone. Second, you are not allowed to use any weapons. Thirdly, during the competition, you are not allowed to take any pills. Anyone who violates the rules will be disqualified. In order to ensure the fairness of the competition, I will personally host the finals. The opponents will be decided by drawing lots. Now, let's invite the 10 participating young geniuses to draw lots. With a wave of his hand, the first prince took out a bamboo tube. There were 10 bamboo sticks in the bamboo tube. Looking at the 10 bamboo sticks, the first prince's eyes flashed. In the meantime, Xiefeng and the other 5 walked out and walked towards the first prince. Let's go, Qin Feiyang said lightly and led Ling Yunfei over. Luo Qingzhu and Zhao Shuang also followed. When the 10 people walked up, the first prince said with a smile, "There's a number on the other end of the bamboo stick. Those who draw 1 and 9 will start the first round." I'll draw first. Xiefeng walked forward and blocked everyone's view. The first prince looked down at the bamboo stick on the left. Xiefeng directly took the bamboo stick. Xiefeng stepped back and Wang Xia followed. Under the first prince's instructions, she also took out a bamboo stick. Then it was Shen Chong and the 3 youths from the Lin family and the royal family. Finally, it was Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, and Zhao Shuang. All of this, Qin Feiyang saw it all. Although he didn't know the actual situation, he could imagine that the first prince would definitely do something. I'd like to see what kind of tricks you can play. He took a step forward, took the last bamboo stick, looked down, and said indifferently, "Number 5, who was the other one?" "Me." A teenager from the royal family stood up and looked at him provocatively. Ling Yunfei followed and asked, "Then who is number 1? Because the bamboo stick in his hand was number 9. In other words, he was the first to appear. "It's me." Shen Chong waved the bamboo stick. The corner of Ling Yunfei's mouth lifted, and he threw away the bamboo slip, saying, "Then let's begin." The others tactfully retreated to the distance. The first prince looked at the 2 of them and said, "I'll say it again. Stop here, begin." As soon as he finished, he took a step back. At the same time, Shen Chong took the lead to rush towards Ling Yunfei, his entire body erupting with a powerful aura, the true qi in his palm gushing out. The moment the illusionary palm came out, 9 afterimages flashed in the air, too much for the eye to take in. At this moment, the 3 giants of the martial imperial palace couldn't help but frown. Even if you want to be a lackey, you have to choose the right person. Ling Yunfei laughed sarcastically, stepped on the origin returning steps, and easily dodged the attack of the illusionary palm. "Let me tell you, you won't be arrogant for long." Shen Chong sneered, and suddenly took a step forward, quickly approaching Ling Yunfei. His speed was actually twice as fast as before. Ling Yunfei was surprised. Was this an auxiliary martial skill? Surprised? What's even more surprising is yet to come. Shen Chong laughed complacently. His 5 fingers suddenly clenched tightly, and a punch was thrown out. This punch actually carried a faint trace of domineering aura. It was as if an overlord had descended. Overlord Fist. Ling Yunfei frowned. Even the Overlord Fist was taught to this person. The first prince was truly generous. "Now you still dare to say that you're not someone's lackey?" Ling Yunfei sneered. The heart-lock-killing fist suddenly attacked and collided with Shen Chong's fist. Bang! At that moment, the 2 of them retreated. However, Shen Chong only retreated 2 steps before he stabilized his body. Then he dived again, rushing to the front of Ling Yunfei, and the illusionary palm hit him head-on. The palm wind was extremely fierce. "This is impossible." Ling Yunfei frowned and used the origin returning steps to the limit, narrowly avoiding the palm. At the same time, a glint flashed through Qin Feiyang's eyes. Both of them were 9-star martial masters, and both of them had perfect martial skills, so their strength should be equal. But why did Xinchang only take 2 steps back? Moreover, Ling Yunfei's mouth overflowed with a trace of blood. Xinchang's face was only pale? He did not believe that Xinchang had already broken through to 1-star martial ancestor, because the strength of a martial ancestor was at least 10 times stronger than a 9-star martial master. If he was really a 1-star martial ancestor, Ling Yunfei would have already fallen to the ground with serious injuries. What are you running for? If you have the guts, fight me head-on. Xinchang continued to provoke Ling Yunfei while chasing after him. Humph! Ling Yunfei snorted coldly, stomped his foot on the ground, and did not continue to dodge. True Qi gushed out, and a punch was thrown out. Overlord Fist! Xinchang shouted in a low voice, and his fist was covered with true Qi. The 2 fists met with a loud bang. Thump! The previous situation appeared once again. Ling Yunfei kept retreating, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. But Xinchang only took 2 steps back, and then pounced towards Ling Yunfei. Ling Yunfei used the origin returning steps and continued to dodge. Luo Qingzhu said, "Something's wrong?" Zhao Shuang'er said, "With Ling Yunfei's strength and actual combat experience, Xinchang can't be his opponent. There must be a problem." Qin Feiyang raised his head and glanced at Xiefeng and the others. On their faces, there was a trace of a smug sneer. What's wrong? He looked at Xinchang again, and his brows were tightly knitted into a line. The Martial Imperial Hall Master and the others were also a little suspicious. Didn't they say that Ling Yunfei defeated Xiefeng and Wang Xia by himself? But why did it seem that it didn't live up to the name now? In order to deal with you, I have put in a lot of effort. I even took the risk of being blamed by my father to teach them the Overlord Fist. If they can't win like this, then they are really trash. The eldest prince crossed his arms in front of his chest with a bright smile on his face. But then, his heart sank again, because he suddenly realized that Ling Yunfei's speed was at least twice as fast as Xinchang's. In other words, the auxiliary martial skill that Ling Yunfei mastered was a perfect martial skill. If he continued to hide like this, it would probably become a big problem. Damn it, even a low-level auxiliary martial skill was very rare, let alone a perfect level auxiliary martial skill. Where did this person get it? Xinchang's auxiliary martial skill was actually given by him, and in order to get this martial skill, he used all his connections, spent 3 days, and paid a huge price. In the end, it didn't work at all. How annoying. It was also at this moment. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up and shouted to Ling Yunfei, "Take off his clothes." And the eldest prince looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Did he see through it so quickly? Clothes? Ling Yunfei was stunned. Although he didn't know what was going on, he didn't doubt Qin Feiyang's words at all. The next moment, he took the initiative to attack. After a few exchanges, he grabbed Xinchang's clothes and pulled hard. With a poochie sound, Xinchang's clothes were torn off on the spot. Inside, there was also a thin undergarment. But Qin Feiyang could tell at a glance that it was not undergarment, but soft armor. Soft armor, soft as silk. Not only could it play a defensive role, it could also help Xinchang remove a portion of the external force. This was the reason why Ling Yunfei had suffered so many losses. Qin Feiyang looked at the eldest prince and frowned. What explanation do you have? I don't know either. The eldest prince shook his head and said innocently, although I said just now that weapons are not allowed, soft armor is a defensive armor and can't be considered a weapon, so Xinchang didn't break the rules. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. He retracted his gaze and looked at the 2 people in the field. Meeting such a shameless person, he was helpless and didn't want to waste his breath. He said indifferently, Ling Yunfei, Xinchang has a soft armor to protect his body. It's not unbreakable, observe carefully. How to break it? Ling Yunfei muttered secretly, dodging while observing Xinchang. Very quickly, he understood. Chapter 190. Haha, let's see how you break through my defense. Xinchang laughed. His laughter was filled with mockery that could not be dispersed. It's too easy to break through your defense. Ling Yunfei took a few steps forward and circled behind Shan Chang like lightning. His palm was like a blade as he slapped the back of Shan Chang's head. With a bang, Shan Chang fell to the ground and fainted. You should be glad. If it wasn't for that stupid rule, your head would have exploded. Ling Yunfei laughed disdainfully. He turned to look at the first prince and said indifferently, "Why aren't you announcing the result?" Defeated? The first prince was stunned. Xiefeng and the others were also dumbfounded. The crowd outside the arena was even more dumbfounded. Wasn't this victory too easy? Even the big shots in the square were a little stunned. Jiang Jingyi sighed. This Jiang Haoyan is indeed not simple. His calm attitude when facing trouble is simply terrifying. Manager Li laughed. Although it was because of Jiang Haoyan's reminder, if Ling Yunfei wasn't smart enough, he wouldn't have been able to react. This kid is indeed a talent. Jiang Jingyi looked at the Martial Imperial Hall Master and said helplessly, "Yin Nanshan, why are you so lucky? A few years ago, Feng Ling heir came and the limelight hasn't passed yet. Now, there's another Ling Yunfei. It's impossible not to be jealous. Even if you're jealous, you can only stare." Yin Nanshan's face was full of smiles. He was very pleased with himself. In fact, he was also surprised. As the Martial Imperial Hall Master, he couldn't pay attention to every disciple. He knew that Ling Yunfei was Ling Feng's son, but he didn't know the details. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes today, he wouldn't have known that another monster had come to the Martial Imperial Hall. A 16-year-old 9-star martial master with such astonishing battle awareness and actual combat experience could only be described as monstrous. On the other hand, he didn't look at Shan Chang anymore, as if he didn't treat him as a disciple of the Martial Imperial Hall. If someone was happy, there would naturally be someone who was worried. The Lin family, the royal family, and the Danwang Hall were all very unhappy. The first prince even gave the overlord fist to Shan Chang. Even a fool could see that he was deliberately targeting Qin Feiyang and his group. If he succeeded, everyone would be happy. However, Shan Chang was defeated. This was not Shan Chang's face, but the first prince's. More importantly, today was the wedding ceremony of the eldest prince and Lin Ai. Such a thing was simply discrediting the royal family and the Lin family. As for the Danwang Hall, there was no reason for them to hate Ling Yunfei. If he had to find a reason, he could only blame Ling Yunfei for being Qin Feiyang's friend. In short, they had already lost their minds. They hated anyone related to Qin Feiyang. Seeing that the eldest prince was in a daze for a long time, the king of Yin felt embarrassed and shouted, "Why are you dawdling? Hurry up and announce the results." The first prince quivered and came back to his senses. A bright smile quickly crept onto his face. Congratulations to Ling Yunfei for advancing to the next round of the competition. Even if he was reluctant, he could only force a smile now. Let's see how long you can pretend. Ling Yunfei sneered secretly, turned around, and walked toward Qin Feiyang with Guiyuan steps. The first prince looked at his back, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. After asking Commander Su to carry Shan Chang down, he smiled and said, "Next, number 2 and number 8 will compete." On Qin Feiyang's side, Zhao Shuanger walked out. On the opposite side was Xiefeng. It turns out to be just her. Xiefeng glanced at Zhao Shuanger with disdain in his heart. The two stood opposite each other, separated by 10 meters. Xiefeng bowed like a gentleman and smiled. "Miss Shuanger, I never bully women. You should take the initiative to admit defeat." "Really?" Zhao Shuanger asked timidly, and Xiefeng nodded, seeming to want to say something. Swish. But at this moment, Zhao Shuanger took a step forward, like a breeze, and in the blink of an eye, she appeared behind Xiefeng. It was Gale's steps. Following closely, she stretched out her hand and slapped the back of Xiefeng's head like Ling Yunfei did to Shan Chang. Bang! At this moment, Xiefeng fell to the ground like a dog eating shit, with a black and blue nose and swollen eyes. Immediately, Zhao Shuanger stepped on Xiefeng's back, revealing an innocent smile and asked, "Now tell me, who bullied who?" Xiefeng was completely confused. Until now, he still didn't know what had happened. The first prince and Wang Xia were also dumbstruck. The sea of people outside the arena fell into a dead silence. Defeated Xiefeng in one move? This little girl was too fierce, wasn't she? Only Qin Feiyang and the other two were not surprised at all, because they knew that Zhao Shuang'er's strength was not only a 9-star martial master, but also mastered the perfect auxiliary martial skill Gale Steps. Even if Xie Feng went all out, he might not be her opponent. But he was recklessly showing off there, and even boasted that he didn't bully women? Wasn't this looking for abuse? There was another person who was more surprised than anyone present. He was Lin Chong. It could be said that he watched Zhao Shuang'er grow up, and he knew Zhao Shuang'er well. In his impression, Zhao Shuang'er was not very outstanding. But it had only been a year since he last saw her. How could she be so ridiculously strong? At the same time, there was also a hint of surprise in Lin Yi's empty eyes. I was actually trampled under the foot of a woman? Xie Feng finally reacted. There was no suspense. Suddenly, he became angry out of humiliation. His true energy surged out like a tide. Don't underestimate women in the future. Zhao Shuang'er pursed her lips and smiled. Then, she raised her jade foot and kicked Xie Feng's temple directly. Xie Feng screamed and flew out on the spot. Finally, he rolled in front of the first prince and fainted. The first prince looked at Zhao Shuang'er, then looked down at Xie Feng at his feet. The anger in his heart was uncontrollable. He really wanted to kick him. He resisted this thought, looked up at Commander Su and smiled. Take him over to recuperate. What was the most aggrieved thing for a person? It was the first prince's current state. His heart was about to explode from anger, but he still had to show a smile.
Yes.
Commander Su quickly ran over and ran to Ma Cheng and the others with Xie Feng in his arms. After taking out a healing pill for Xie Feng to consume, he threw him directly to Ma Cheng and the others, turned around, and ran away. Useless trash, take him away from me, so as not to make a fool of himself. Jia He yelled angrily. His dark face was so gloomy that it almost dripped water. Shuiyang, who was next to him, trembled. He quickly picked up Xie Feng and ran to the back. Great! However, on the other side, Yin Nanshan slapped the table and applauded regardless of the occasion. Although Zhao Shuang'er was a disciple of Star Moon City's Martial Lord Hall, she was also under his command. Looking at his disciples showing off their prowess one after another, as the hall master, he felt that his face was especially bright. Elder Wan and the beautiful woman were also beaming with joy, like a spring breeze. Look at how proud you guys are. Zhang Zhengyi, who was at the side, rolled his eyes. Haha, I'm proud. So what? Yin Nanshan laughed and looked at him provocatively. It was as if he was saying, if you have the ability, why don't you also find 2 such monsters? Zhang Zhengyi didn't think much of it. However, Ma Cheng and the others unconsciously clenched their fists. Their eyes were extremely cold, because that laughter was too ear-piercing. It was like an invisible slap that fiercely slapped their faces. The 3 of them looked at Wang Xia. Wang Xia noticed the 3 people's gazes and nodded heavily. The first prince said, next, number 3 and number 7 will go on stage. Luo Qingzhu and Wang Xia walked towards each other at the same time. Why is it her? Wang Xia frowned and whispered, no matter who it is, I must win this battle. Luo Qingzhu's expression didn't show any contempt, nor was it serious. She seemed very calm. Wang Xia smiled and said, Sister Qingzhu, sorry to offend you. Luo Qingzhu just smiled lightly. Wang Xia's face turned serious. True energy gushed out from her palm. She suddenly swooped down and rushed in front of Luo Qingzhu. Her palm whistled out. The wind from her palm blew up Luo Qingzhu's dress and hair. She also waved her palm. However, this was just an ordinary palm. There wasn't even a trace of true energy. Seeing this, Wang Xia said angrily, Luo Qingzhu, don't look down on people. Before her voice faded, the 2 palms collided. Puff. Wang Xia suddenly spat out blood. She couldn't control her feet and retreated more than 10 meters. I'm not looking down on you. I'm just afraid of hurting you. Thank you. Luo Qingzhu lowered her slender arm and smiled faintly at Wang Xia. She then turned and walked to Zhao Shuang'er's side. She looked up at the first prince and waited for him to announce the result. However, the first prince didn't seem to see it. He lowered his head and his face was green and red. There were only 5 matches in total. The other party had already won 3 matches in a row. He was now beginning to regret holding this competition. Jiang Jingyi was very proud. He looked at Yin Nanshan and said with a smile, "How is my daughter? She's much stronger than your 2 monstrous disciples." Yin Nanshan said disdainfully, "If they had a father like you, it's hard to say who's stronger and who's weaker. Moreover, your daughter is also a disciple of the Martial Imperial Hall. What are you so proud of?" Jiang Zhengyi's face stiffened and he said angrily, "I shouldn't have let her enter the Martial Imperial Hall." Yin Nanshan said disdainfully, "Is it up to you to decide whether she enters the Martial Imperial Hall or not? Moreover, it's too late to regret now." Hearing this, Jiang Jingyi seemed to have something stuck in his throat and his face turned red. As for Ma Cheng and the other 2, they were too ashamed to continue staying. However, because of King Yin and the Lin family's ancestor, they couldn't leave first. All their anger could only be suppressed in their hearts. King Yin glanced at the first prince and frowned slightly. He ordered, "Commander Su, you go and preside." He couldn't lose face anymore. Otherwise, today's wedding would definitely become a joke.
Yes.
Commander Su bowed and replied. He ran to the first prince and said in a low voice, "Your Highness, leave this to me. Go and rest for a while." The first prince nodded and walked to King Yan's side in a daze. He lowered his head and didn't say a word. For this final match, in order to humiliate Qin Feiyang, he had searched for auxiliary martial techniques, forged a defensive soft armor, and even taught him the Overlord Fist. It could be said that he was worried sick. However, he had put in so much effort, but in the end, he didn't get anything. He really couldn't accept this cruel fact. This competition shouldn't have been held in the first place. This was asking for humiliation. Seeing that his son had been dealt such a blow and had completely lost his previous confidence, the anger in King Yan's heart grew stronger. He glanced at Qin Feiyang from the corner of his eyes, and a trace of shocking hostility flashed past the depths of his eyes. Chapter 191. Commander Su said loudly, "Let's start the 4th round. Number 4 against number 6. The teenager in purple from the Lin family walked out. At the same time, a teenager from the royal family walked out. As there were only 4 people on Qin Feiyang's side, one of the 6 people on the first prince's side would definitely be on his side. Ling Yunfei crossed his arms and smiled evilly. Dog against dog. It should be exciting. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "That's impossible. Before the 2 of them meet, one of them will definitely admit defeat." As he expected, the teenager from the royal family forfeited in less than 10 breaths. Qin Feiyang whispered, "Qing Zhu. What's his name?" Actually, he thought the teenager from the Lin family would admit defeat. He didn't expect it to be someone from the royal family. Luo Qingzhu said, "His name is Lin Hua. He is a disciple of a branch of the Lin family. Due to his extraordinary talent, he was brought to Yin City by Lin Han from a young age and was carefully nurtured. Lin Hua has already recognized Lin Han as his godfather." "I see." Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. Commander Su said, "The 5th round starts now. It's finally my turn." Qin Feiyang's eyes shone. He took a step forward. His long hair danced in the wind and his clothes rustled. The teenager from the royal family on the opposite side also strode forward. However, he was originally full of confidence, but after seeing what happened to Xie Feng and the others, he was now extremely nervous. Especially at this moment, when he saw Qin Feiyang, who was full of confidence, he couldn't help but want to retreat. The king of Yin looked at the teenager and frowned tightly. He shouted, "The royal family forfeits this round." "What? Forfeit?" The people outside the arena were extremely shocked. Was Jiang Haoyan so terrifying? He forfeited before the match even started? However, the tycoons and patriarchs present thought that the king of Yin made a wise decision, because they could all see that the teenager from the royal family had lost his confidence. Even he had lost confidence in himself. How could he defeat Jiang Haoyan, who was confident? If this continued, the royal family would only be more embarrassed. The king of Yin said again, "Half an hour after the break, the finals will begin." Rest? Qin Feiyang frowned, feeling somewhat puzzled. Zhao Shuang'er and Luo Qingzhu both won in one move, and were not injured at all. Ling Yunfei was only slightly injured. Lin Hua was not injured at all. Was there a need for an intermission? However, this was the king of Yan's order, and it was not his place to question him. He turned around and met up with Ling Yunfei and the others. Then, they walked towards Yin Nanshan and Jiang Zhengyi. In the meantime, Lin Hua also ran towards Lin Han. Ling Yunfei frowned. Are they planning to play some tricks? His voice was so low that only Qin Feiyang and the other two could hear him. Qin Feiyang said, I don't know, but I can be sure that King Yin will not let us continue to be arrogant. Haha, not bad, not bad. All of you performed very well today, but no matter what, you are still guests. When the finals begin, remember to be humble and give them some face. Yin Nanshan laughed heartily. Qin Feiyang and the other three stood in front of him with a bitter smile on their faces. They wanted to say that it seemed that the person who did not give face to the royal family and the Lin family here was the hall master. Wasn't it obvious that he was making fun of them by saying it without hiding anything? Sure enough, the king of Yin and the others on the main seat looked very ugly. The king of Yin said in a low voice, Lin Han, give Lin Hua supreme-grade red fire glass tree. I want to shut them all up. Lin Hua's heart trembled. He was overjoyed. In the meantime, the first prince was also in high spirits. His previous depression was swept away, and his eyes became extremely sharp. That's right. As long as Lin Hua took a supreme-grade red fire glass elixir now, he could step into a 2-star martial grandmaster from a 9-star martial master. At that time, Zhang Haoyin, Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, they would all be trampled under his feet. However, Lin Han frowned and said in a low voice, I don't have a supreme-grade red fire glass elixir. Why don't you have an important elixir with you at all times? The king of Yin stared at him angrily. Lin Han smiled bitterly. Once the supreme-grade red fire glass elixir appeared, it caused a mad scramble. Now even the treasure pavilion had no stock. Even if he had gold coins, there was no place to buy it. The first prince pondered for a while and said in a low voice, Father, I have 5 elixirs here. Why don't you give one to Lin Hua first? Okay. The king of Yin nodded. Although it was a betrothal gift for the Lin family, he could not care so much now. Getting back his face was the most important thing. The first prince looked around. Seeing that no one was paying attention, he took out a jade box and handed it to Lin Hua without a trace. He said, Take it in the palace. Relax and don't arouse suspicion. Understood. Lin Hua nodded and hid the jade box in his sleeve. He turned around and strode toward the palace gate. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang and the other 3 looked at each other with a trace of doubt in their eyes. I'll go and check. Ling Yunfei took a few steps forward and blocked in front of Lin Hua. He chuckled and said, Brother Lin, where are you going? Get out of my way. Lin Hua's eyes darkened and he shouted coldly. Ling Yunfei looked him up and down. When he noticed that Lin Hua had his right hand in his sleeve, he asked curiously, Brother Lin, are you holding something in your hand? Lin Hua's heart skipped a beat. The king of Yin and the others could not help but frown. These yellow-haired brats were really each harder to deal with than the other. If the jade box in Lin Hua's hand was exposed, they would become a laughingstock. The first prince's eyes flashed. He stood up and walked to Lin Hua. He looked at Ling Yunfei and said with a smile, Brother Lin, you think too much. I just asked Lin Hua to help me get something from the palace. Ling Yunfei smiled and said, I'm just joking. Please don't mind. Humph. Lin Hua snorted and strode away without looking back. The first prince cupped his hands and said, Brother Lin, after the competition, you must stay and attend the royal banquet. Ling Yunfei said, Sure, as long as you invite me, I will definitely invite you. The first prince smiled and nodded to Qin Feiyang and the others. He then returned to his seat. Something's wrong. Ling Yunfei came to Qin Feiyang and whispered, It's really strange. There are so many maids here. They can go and get something. Also, the first prince is recovering quickly. Luo Qingzhu and Zhao Shuang are agreed in whispers. Qin Feiyang also frowned. Hearing their discussion, the beautiful woman turned to look at them and said with a strange expression, Why do I feel that you are here to cause trouble? Is that so? Qin Feiyang showed an innocent face. Hearing the beautiful woman's words, Jiang Jingyi, Yin Nanshan, Elder Wan, and Manager Li gave them strange looks. Jiang Jingyi said, Qingzhu, Shuang'er, you're both girls. Don't learn bad things from them. Qin Feiyang and Wang Chong looked at each other with bitterness in their hearts. Lin Hua was holding a bouquet of bright flowers as he walked out of the palace gates. He was in high spirits and full of confidence. However, when Qin Feiyang and the others looked at him, he immediately restrained himself. However, the expression in his eyes had changed. There was a trace of contempt in his eyes. He walked up to the first prince and handed him the flowers. Why are you giving me flowers? The first prince frowned. Lin Hua said, Didn't you say in front of everyone that I would help you go in to get something? We have to take something out. Smart. The eldest prince's eyes were full of appreciation. He got up and took the bouquet. He walked to Lin Yi and smiled. This is for you. Palace Lord Prince is so romantic. Yes, those flowers were just picked. He is really considerate. Lin Yi is so lucky to be able to marry such a good man. The girls around the family masters couldn't help but be envious. Romantic? What a country bumpkin. Fatso outside the arena looked disdainful. However, Lin Yi sat there motionless. She had no intention of taking it. The first prince was about to change his expression. The noblewoman smiled and said, What are you thinking about? Why are you so absorbed? His Highness's kindness, why don't you accept it quickly? Lin Yi said, Adoptive mother, I'm a little uncomfortable. Can you accept it for me first? Okay, I know you are shy. The noblewoman smiled again and again. She took the bouquet from the first prince and smiled. Your Highness, I apologize to you on behalf of Auntie, what are you saying? We will be a family later. You don't have to be so polite. The first prince smiled, looked at Lin Yi with concern, and asked, Where are you feeling uncomfortable? Do you want to take a rest first? Lin Yi said, Thank you, Your Highness, but it doesn't matter. I will be fine after sitting for a while. Then, if you can't hold on, just let me know. The first prince appeared to be very caring, but Lin Yi didn't seem to appreciate it. King Yin, Lin Han, and the Lin family's ancestor next to him frowned slightly. Obviously, they were very dissatisfied with Lin Yi's current performance. I'm afraid that Lin Yi will inevitably be reprimanded by them after the wedding. King Yin nodded to Commander Su in the middle of the square. Commander Su understood and said loudly, Well, the finals are about to begin. The 5 contestants, please come forward and draw lots. The competition officially begins now. Lin Hua took a step forward, turned his head, and glanced at Qin Feiyang and the other 3. There was a hint of mockery at the corner of his mouth, and then quickly walked to Commander Su. Be careful. Qin Feiyang reminded the 3 of them and walked over with them. Commander Su glanced at them and said, Since there are 5 of you, one of you can draw a blank lot, and the person who draws a blank lot will directly enter the next round. Lin Hua took the lead to draw a bamboo lot, looked down and said coldly, I am the first lot. Zhao Shuang'er drew the second lot. Ling Yunfei drew the third lot. Qin Feiyang drew the fourth lot. The blank lot naturally fell into Luo Qingzhu's hand. She smiled at them and said, It seems that my luck is better. No matter how good your luck is, you will be trampled under my feet in the end. Moreover, even if it is a woman, I will not show mercy. Chapter 192. This time, they drew lots. Commander Su did not tamper with it, because it was no longer necessary. Lin Hua and Zhao Shuang'er will start the first match. Everyone else leave. Commander Su shouted. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and asked, Commander Su, I'm number 4. His opponent should be me, right? Ling Yunfei and the other 2 also frowned. According to the previous rules, it should be number 1 against number 4. Number 2 against number 3. That was Qin Feiyang against Lin Hua. Ling Yunfei against Zhao Shuang'er. But now, Commander Su disrupted the rules and let Zhao Shuang'er and Lin Hua fight, while Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei fight. What was the meaning of this? Commander Su smiled and said, That was just now. Now is now. If you have any objections, We can negotiate. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. Zhao Shuanger smiled and said, "No need. The guest will follow the host." "No way." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Lin Hua must have some tricks up his sleeve. He could not let Zhao Shuanger take the risk. Zhao Shuanger said, "If I can't beat him, I'll admit defeat. It's no big deal." Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei looked at each other and could only step aside helplessly. Zhao Shuanger took a step forward and looked at Lin Hua. "Please enlighten me." "Bring it on." Lin Hua looked at her with contempt. Zhao Shuanger frowned. She used the wind steps and the crescent moon palm went straight to Lin Hua's face. "No matter how fast you are, you're still trash in front of me." Lin Hua was arrogant. He raised his big hand and gently slapped out. No vital energy. No martial arts technique. It was blatant disdain. Qin Feiyang looked at this scene and had an uneasy premonition. Bang! The two palms collided. Zhao Shuanger was sent flying. Blood spurted out. Her face was also pale in an instant. With a bang, she fell to the ground and even the ground cracked. How could this be? This turn of events stunned Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, and Fatso. They were very clear about Zhao Shuanger's strength. She, who possessed a perfect auxiliary martial technique, was completely invincible in the same realm. But now, he was actually heavily injured by Lin Hua. Yin Nanshan, the beautiful woman, and Elder Wan rose from their seats, their faces filled with disbelief. Zhang Jingyi and Manager Li also frowned. However, the royal family, the Lin family, and the people of the Danwang Hall were all smiles. Especially the first prince. Even though the other party was a woman, he still felt relieved. The anger in his heart finally found an outlet to vent. Lin Hua proudly walked in front of Zhao Shuanger, grabbed her hair, and sneered, "Aren't you a monster from the martial imperial palace? Why is he so weak?" Boom. After saying this, he actually punched Zhao Shuanger's lower abdomen. Puff. Zhao Shuanger violently spurted out blood. Her beautiful face was distorted on the spot. Trash should have the awareness of trash. His face was full of arrogance, and he actually slapped Zhao Shuanger's face again. Qin Feiyang's face was gloomy to the extreme. Luo Qingzhu's face was also as cold as ice. She shouted, "Commander Su, Shuanger is already heavily injured, but Lin Hua still won't stop. Tell me, is he deliberately killing people?" Commander Su shook his head and said, "Zhao Shuanger hasn't admitted defeat, so the competition isn't over." "What kind of bullshit competition is this, Scram?" Qin Feiyang was seething with anger. He completely ignored the big shots present and walked towards Lin Hua step by step. Commander Su's face changed, and he shouted, "If you dare break the rules, this commander will disqualify you. Do you think I really want to participate in the competition? With my Zhang Haoyan's ability, what can I get?" Qin Feiyang laughed angrily. His aura exploded, and strands of golden light appeared in his palm. This sentence, although it was extremely arrogant, but no one present refuted it, because this was the truth. The value of a top-grade alchemist was even higher than a war emperor. Commander Su's pupils also shrank, but Qin Feiyang's arrogant attitude made him even angrier. Shua. He took a step forward and stood in front of Qin Feiyang. His aura was like a torrent, covering the sky and covering the earth as it rushed towards Qin Feiyang. Humph! Luo Qingzhu and Ling Yunfei coldly snorted at the same time. They came to Qin Feiyang's left and right sides, and their eyes were frighteningly gloomy. Facing the three of them, Commander Su actually felt an inexplicable panic. This was very difficult for him to accept. One had to know that he was a war king. The strongest of the three people in front of him was only a martial ancestor. How could they give him such a sense of oppression? But at this moment, Yin Nanshan said in a deep voice, "The martial imperial hall admits defeat." Lin Han shouted, "Lin Hua, the martial imperial hall has already admitted defeat. Why aren't you stopping? Consider yourself lucky." Lin Hua lowered his head and looked at Zhao Shuanger with disdain. He stood up and kicked Zhao Shuanger's lower abdomen again. Bang! Zhao Shuanger was kicked away and landed beside Qin Feiyang and the other two. She fainted on the spot and lost consciousness. Luo Qingzhu hurriedly squatted beside her, her face full of worry. Qin Feiyang took out a supreme-grade healing pill and let Ling Yunfei feed it to her. Lin Hua patted his clothes and looked at Qin Feiyang and the other two. He said lightly, "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I didn't kill her." Qin Feiyang turned his head and looked at him. His sharp eyes were like the edge of a knife, extremely frightening. Ling Yunfei stood up and looked at Lin Hua gloomily. He said in a low voice, "He must have taken the supreme-grade red fire-colored glass pill when he entered the palace just now." Qin Feiyang said, "It's meaningless to talk about this now." Ling Yunfei turned to look at him and said with a smile, "I know what to do." Then, he looked at Commander Su and said, "I forfeit." "I forfeit too." Luo Qingzhu followed. Everyone was shocked. They were just a little surprised that Ling Yunfei forfeited. However, Luo Qingzhu's strength had obviously surpassed that of a martial master. She actually took the initiative to forfeit? How much confidence did she have in Qin Feiyang? More importantly, Qin Feiyang was only a 9-star martial master now. Yin Nanshan and Jiang Jingyi could not help but frown when the two of them forfeited. It was not that they did not believe in Qin Feiyang. It was Lin Hua's current strength that was already far away from Qin Feiyang. The eldest prince and the others were very happy. Although they all knew that Ling Yunfei and Luo Qingzhu forfeited to help Qin Feiyang, they were very happy to see such a situation. They finally vented their anger. "Zhang Haoyin, you will pay the price for your previous arrogance." A cold light flashed in the eldest prince's eyes. He clenched his fist and coughed dryly. Lin Hua immediately looked at him. From the eldest prince's eyes, he could read that he was humiliating Zhang Haoyin. He secretly sneered and retracted his gaze. He looked at Qin Feiyang and teased, "They have paid so much. If you lose later, you will lose face." Qin Feiyang directly ignored him. He looked at Commander Su and said, "Can we begin?" Commander Su was also at a loss for what to do by this sudden change. He looked at King Yin for help. King Yin said, "Since they have forfeited, let's start the final battle." Commander Su nodded, glanced at Luo Qingzhu and the other two, and shouted, "Unrelated people, leave." Ling Yunfei carried the unconscious Zhao Shuanger and walked to Yin Nanshan and the others with Luo Qingzhu. "How is she?" the beautiful woman asked. Ling Yunfei said, "She is just unconscious. Her life is not in danger." "That's good." The beautiful woman nodded and looked back at Qin Feiyang. Everyone present could tell that Qin Feiyang's heart was burning with rage and was about to explode. Competition. Commander Su looked at the two of them and shouted, "Begin." Lin Hua placed one hand behind his back and hooked his finger, saying disdainfully, "Zhang Haoyin, don't say that I'm bullying you. I will only use one hand." Qin Feiyang did not waste time and walked over step by step with a threatening cold light in his eyes. Lin Han raised his brow and shouted, "Lin Hua, be serious." Lin Hua was helpless and said, "I have no choice. I don't dare to disobey my foster father's orders. Right now, I will show you what a true monster is." After he said that, he shot out like an arrow, his eyes flashing with killing intent. That was right. He was prepared to kill Qin Feiyang. Although it was against the rules, as long as he could kill this person, it did not matter if he was disqualified. Anyway, as long as he won, the royal family would definitely reward him in private. At this moment, Yin Nanshan and the others felt their hearts tighten. They almost could not help but admit defeat. Ling Yunfei said, "I believe in him. So Palace Master, please respect his choice." Zhang Haoyin, tremble in fear. Suddenly, Lin Hua roared and revealed a cruel smile. The true qi in his palm surged and furiously struck towards Qin Feiyang. However, under everyone's surprised gaze, Qin Feiyang did not dodge. He stopped in his tracks and looked at the aggressive Lin Hua. Has he given up? That's right. How can a mere 9-star martial master be a match for a 2-star martial ancestor? Rather than make a futile struggle, it's better to just give up. The eldest prince sneered in his heart. But just as Lin Hua's palm was about to hit Qin Feiyang's chest, Qin Feiyang suddenly raised his arm. He lightly waved his palm. In the center of his palm, rays of dazzling golden light bloomed. The word return instantly appeared. Bang! The next moment, the two palms met. The scene that caused an uproar suddenly appeared. Poof! Lin Hua spat out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, accompanied by a cracking sound, his arm was broken on the spot and his skin and flesh were exposed. His body, like a meteorite, flew into the distance. How is this possible? All the big shots and family heads suddenly stood up and looked at this scene in disbelief. A 9-star martial master actually sent a 2-star martial ancestor flying with one palm? Was this a dream? At the same time, Qin Feiyang also retreated, blood continuously flowing out of his mouth. It seems that although the word return is powerful, it has a limit. But a 2-star martial ancestor is not the limit. His eyes burst with light. He took the initiative to attack, using the smoke-gathering steps, turned into a shadow and chased after Lin Hua. At this moment, he was like an enraged lion, shaking everyone's hearts. Boom! At this moment, Lin Hua smashed into the square, directly smashing a deep hole in the ground. Why is this happening? My power. Actually, all of it was reflected back? Did I see a ghost? Chapter 193. Sensing Qin Feiyang, he rushed over. Enduring the pain, Lin Hua quickly got up and jumped out of the pit. I don't believe that I will lose to him. He was in a state of madness. His eyes were blood red. His other hand clenched tightly. Zhang Haoyan, I will kill you. Overlord Fist. With a roar, he rushed towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's eyes were like lightning. He stretched out his hand and hit the fist without dodging. A golden light appeared. Ah! Lin Hua was sent flying again, screaming in pain. Crack! His arm was broken too. Bang! He flew tens of meters away, creating another pit in the square. Dust filled the air. Why is it like this? He roared in his heart, unable to accept this fact. Qin Feiyang also retreated a few feet. After stabilizing his body, he continued to rush towards Lin Hua. After 2 hard hits, his arm began to feel numb, as if his muscles were being torn apart. He knew his arm had reached its limit. If he received a 3rd hit from Lin Hua, it would definitely break. However, this was impossible, because Lin Hua's arms were broken. Even if he was a 2-star martial grandmaster, he was just a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Whoosh! At this moment, Qin Feiyang was like a flash of lightning, rushing towards the pit. After 2 hits, Lin Hua was about to fall apart. He did not even have the strength to get up. Qin Feiyang jumped into the pit. He grabbed Lin Hua's hair. How you treated Zhao Shuang heir, I will return it to you double, he said coldly. He punched Lin Hua's stomach with all his might. Ow! Lin Hua screamed like a pig being slaughtered. A clown like you can be considered a demon? Qin Feiyang punched again. Lin Hua was in so much pain that his whole body was convulsing, his face pale. His facial features were twisted to the extreme, extremely ferocious. What I hate the most in my life are men who bully women. They are simply scum. Qin Feiyang raised his hand and slapped Lin Hua's face. A dark red palm print appeared on his face. Bang, bang, bang. Next, he fanned himself wildly. Lin Hua's face, which could be considered handsome, quickly swelled up and did not look human anymore. Zhang Haoyan, spare me. I'll kneel before you. I'll apologize to Zhao Shuang. Lin Hua begged for mercy. His heart was shrouded by deep despair and fear. Forgive you? You are too naive. Qin Feiyang sneered and grabbed his ankle. He dragged him out of the pit and into everyone's sight. Is he still human? Seeing Lin Hua's miserable state, everyone present felt their scalps go numb. I admit, Lin Hua wanted to admit defeat. However, Qin Feiyang stomped on his mouth, shattering all of his teeth and causing him to spurt out blood. Following closely, he grabbed Lin Hua's clothes, lifted Lin Hua up high, and threw him down. His knee slammed into Lin Hua's abdomen. Lin Hua screamed miserably. Commander Su, why are you still standing there? Lin Han roared. If this continued, Lin Hua would be killed alive. Commander Su suddenly regained his senses and hurriedly shouted, Zhang Haoyan, stop! Didn't you say that if you don't admit defeat, the competition is not over? Qin Feiyang turned to look at him, his mouth pursed with a trace of ridicule. Immediately, he stomped on Lin Hua's abdomen again. Lin Hua continued to vomit blood. He no longer had the strength to scream. Like a pile of mud, he lay on the ground. Commander Su clenched his fists. His face was full of anger. But there was nothing he could do. Because he did say this sentence just now. Everyone heard it. If he forcibly stopped Qin Feiyang now, it would be too obvious that he was biased. And now, Qin Feiyang didn't know how to torture Lin Hua. Because Lin Hua's whole body had been beaten up by him. That's right. There was another place. The corner of his mouth lifted. He kicked Lin Hua's egg. My Lin family admits defeat. Lin Han's face changed and hurriedly shouted. But it was too late. With a crack, the egg broke. Seeing this scene, all the men could not help but clamp their legs together. Their crotch was cold. He actually kicked the egg? This kid was ruthless, right? Yin Nanshan and the others' faces twitched. Little bastard. The beautiful woman spat. Good disdain. Learning these dirty tricks. This time, Lin Han would probably go crazy with anger. Sure enough, Lin Han suddenly stood up. His eyes burst with a shocking cold light. He gritted his teeth and said, I have already shouted that I admit defeat. You still want to kill me? If I remember correctly, when the palace master shouted that he admitted defeat, Lin Hua still kicked Feng Ling. I want to ask, why didn't you jump out and scold Lin Hua for his evil intentions? Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said indifferently. Lin Han said, I. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, don't find excuses. Who in Yin City doesn't know that the Lin family is a hypocrite? I'm too lazy to argue with you. Hurry up and take this trash back. But from now on, I'm afraid he can't be your adopted son. But congratulations, you have another adopted daughter. Remember to raise her well. Maybe in the future, she can marry into a good family. Remember to invite me to the wedding banquet. Qin Feiyang grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. As soon as these words came out, many people burst out laughing. This kid was too immoral. These words were even more embarrassing than walking up to Lin Han and slapping him in public. This time, the Lin family had lost all their face. There was no doubt that Lin Han was furious and wanted to kill him. Cough. But then, the king of Yin coughed dryly to remind Lin Han to pay attention to the situation. He said to Commander Su, take Lin Hua away to recuperate. In fact, the king of Yin was more angry than anyone now. Sacrificing a supreme-grade red fire-colored glass elixir not only did not suppress this kid, but also made him more and more arrogant. He even used Lin Hua as a stepping stone to become famous. From today onwards, this kid's reputation in Yin City would rise to another level. Commander Su picked up Lin Hua, glanced at Qin Feiyang coldly, and turned to run toward the palace gate. This time, the royal family had suffered a double loss. The wedding ceremony, which was supposed to be a joyous occasion, was now very unpleasant. The king of Yin turned to look at the eldest prince and said in a low voice, what are you waiting for? This competition is organized by you. Even if they ride on your head, you have to bear with it. Yes, the eldest prince nodded, took a deep breath, got up with a smile and walked toward the center of the square. The competition has come to this point. Now I announce. First place, Jiang Haoyin. Second place, Lin Hua. Third place, Luo Qingzhu. I don't know if anyone has any objections to this result. He looked around at the crowd. No one had any objections. Well, I'll give out the rewards now. The eldest prince took out 2 jade boxes and handed them to Qin Feiyang. Smiling, Brother Jiang, congratulations. Qin Feiyang took the jade boxes. After confirming that they were snow crystals and 9 suns flowers, he kept them, cupped his hands, and smiled. Thank you for your care, Your Highness. The eldest prince's eyelids twitched, and he smiled faintly. You deserve it. Then, he took out 2 more jade boxes, one for Luo Qingzhu and the other for Lin Han. This competition had finally come to an end. Qin Feiyang also returned to stand behind Yin Nanshan. The other big shots also gave him a thumbs up immediately. Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, how is Shuang'er? Her injuries are recovering. Ling Yunfei hugged her the whole time. That's good. Qin Feiyang heaved a sigh of relief. The beautiful woman asked curiously, how did you do it just now? Why do I feel that when you fought with Lin Hua, you didn't use any strength at all? Qin Feiyang said faintly, Lin Hua is just a paper tiger. There's nothing special about him. Lin Han and the red-haired old man suddenly turned to look at him. Their eyes flashed coldly. Qin Feiyang glanced at them slightly, then looked away directly, ignoring the existence of the two. At this time, King Yin got up and turned to face the big shots and family heads. First of all, we want to thank those young people for giving us such a wonderful match. Although the process was a bit unpleasant, it is undeniable that they are all the future pillars of Yin County. This king also sincerely hopes that every young genius can reach the pinnacle of life. Now, the competition is over. It's time to get to the point. I now announce that the marriage ceremony of my son and Lin Han's daughter, Lin Yi, has officially begun. Let's welcome the two newlyweds. King Yin smiled. Wait, but at this moment, a cold shout rang out. In an instant, the audience was silent. They all looked at the source of the sound. It was Qin Feiyang. King Yin frowned imperceptibly and asked with a smile, Is there anything else, Brother Jiang? The beautiful woman whispered, Yin, don't mess around anymore. Stay here. I won't mess around. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and walked to the front of Yin Nanshan and the others. Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, Feng Ling Fatso, and Lu Hong couldn't help but calm down at this moment because they knew that Qin Feiyang was ready to lay his cards on the table. Hurry up. In the castle, Wolf King also howled excitedly as if he was injected with chicken blood. As for the others, they all looked to Qin Feiyang in confusion. But Qin Feiyang turned a blind eye to these gazes. His eyes swept across Yin Nanshan, the beautiful woman, Elder Wan, and Stewardly one by one. Suddenly, he bowed to the few of them. What is this for? They frowned. Qin Feiyang said, in front of everyone, this junior would like to solemnly thank the seniors for taking care of this junior these past few months. The beautiful woman pursed her lips and said, I thought it was something serious. Elder Wan smiled and said, Get up quickly. It's just a small matter. There's no need to make it so grand. Besides, you're not the main character today. Stewardly said helplessly, Yes, I'm a little embarrassed after what you've done. If you really don't want me to write you an IOU, we can discuss it in private. IOU? Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He didn't say anything more. He walked to the center of the square step by step. He looked up at Shi Zheng and cupped his hands. Elder Shi, the person I should thank the most is you. Thank you for taking care of me these few months. It's nothing. Shi Zheng smiled and felt a little confused. Not to mention Shi Zheng, everyone present was a little confused. Chapter 194. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and turned to look at Lin Yi. A smile appeared on his face. And the eldest prince raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Girl, sorry to keep you waiting for a long time. Lin Yi's body and mind trembled. She got up suddenly and stared at Qin Feiyang. Her face was full of disbelief. In this world, only one person would call her a girl. It was Qin Feiyang. Seeing Lin Yi's reaction, the eldest prince's face sank suddenly and shouted, Zhang Haoyin, what do you mean? Are you trying to snatch the bride? Others looked at each other, their eyes full of surprise. The name Zhang Haoyin has been with me for a full year. To be honest, even I sometimes think that I am Zhang Haoyin. But Qin Feiyang glanced at the crowd, and his eyes became firm. He said word by word, I am not Zhang Haoyin. I am Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang. The people present suddenly got up, surprised and doubtful. Lin Yi's delicate body trembled constantly, and tears couldn't help but flow down. Qin Feiyang looked around and said firmly, You didn't hear it wrong. I am Qin Feiyang wanted by the royal family. I am Qin Feiyang who killed Lin Bailey. As he finished speaking, he took out a medicinal pill. This pill, it was called Facial Restoration Pill. It could restore one's true appearance. He stuffed it into his mouth without hesitation. His figure and appearance began to change rapidly. Not long after, a face that was familiar to the world appeared. He was about 1.8 meters tall. His body was neither fat nor thin, and his facial features were handsome. The previous morbidity had disappeared without a trace and was replaced by fortitude. However, under the fortitude, there was a trace of vicissitudes that should not belong to this age. It's really him. Zhang Haoyin is Qin Feiyang. Being wanted by the royal family, he still dares to come to Yin City? He even announced his true identity in front of so many big shots? Is this a provocation to the royal family? The place suddenly burst into an uproar. The big shots in the square all locked their faces firmly. It was unbelievable to the extreme. Yin Nanshan and the others finally understood. Why did this man bow to them and say those words to them before? It was because he wanted to announce his identity. In other words, this man was ready to be the enemy of the whole world. Lin Han's expression was particularly interesting. He sent all the warlords of the Lin family to guard in the major cities to look for this man. But he never thought that this kid would actually be right under his nose. In order to curry favor with this man, he gave him 5 million gold coins. He was blatantly looking down on him, the Lin family, and the royal family. Haha, Ma Ching suddenly threw his head back and laughed. It was full of sarcasm. The target of their mockery was undoubtedly the Martial Imperial Hall. Fortunately, he left the Danwang Hall. Otherwise, the Danwang Hall would have to bear the crime of harboring a wanted criminal and become the laughing stock of the world. Elder He and Jia He also laughed. They did not hide the gloating on their faces. However, Yin Nanshan and the other two turned a deaf ear to them and stared at Qin Feiyang. They finally understood. It was because of his identity that they made such an agreement with him. Now, they really did not know whether they should invite this man to join the Martial Imperial Hall or not. Hallmaster, 2 elders, I'm sorry. Ling Yunfei handed Zhao Shuanger to Luo Qingzhu and bowed to Yin Nanshan and the other two. Without hesitation, he walked to Qin Feiyang's side and stood together with him. At the same time, Fatso and Lu Hong also bowed to Shizheng apologetically and brought Lin Chong to Qin Feiyang's side. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile, "Actually, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't come. TSK, is Fat Lord such a disloyal person?" Fatso rolled his eyes at him. Ling Yunfei and Lu Hong also had bright smiles on their faces. Qin Feiyang was very touched. Ever since he was expelled from the imperial capital, he did not trust anyone except for Uncle Yuan. But gradually, he had Wolf King by his side. There were also 3 people who were willing to accompany him through life and death. What else was he not satisfied with? With a wave of his hand, Wolf King appeared out of thin air. Howl. At that moment, it howled at Sky Wolf excitedly. Haha, Yin Cheng, Brother Wolf is out to act wildly. An unruly and wild laughter sounded in the minds of the big shots. It was Wolf King who was provoking them. At this moment, one wolf, 4 people, treating each other with utmost sincerity and lofty sentiments. Although they were weak, the camaraderie they displayed made countless people blush with shame. The eldest prince was very happy. He was worried that he wouldn't have a chance to take revenge on these people. Unexpectedly, Qin Feiyang actually didn't know what was good for him and actually exposed his identity. Now, he had a reason to deal with this group of people openly. His eyes turned cold as he waved his hand and said, "Take them down for me." The black-armored guards at the edge of the surroundings immediately turned around and surrounded them fiercely. Lin Han took a step forward, his body full of murderous intent, and shouted, "All of you stop. I want to kill them with my own hands and avenge my son." Whoosh! He turned into an afterimage and shot towards Qin Feiyang and the others. "Why are you in such a hurry to kill me? It seems that you are very afraid that I will reveal all the good things your son did in Iron Ox Town." Qin Feiyang sneered. Lin Han said disdainfully, "Who will believe your words?" "I believe you." At this moment, a calm voice sounded. Yin Nanshan took a step forward and landed in front of Qin Feiyang and the others, turning around to look at Lin Han. Lin Han braked and stopped, saying angrily, "Palace Master Yin, Qin Feiyang is a wanted criminal of the royal family. How dare you protect them?" "Palace Master Yin, don't go overboard." The king of Yin frowned. At the same time, the red-haired old man also walked to the side of the king of Yin his aura spreading. You want to fight? The Martial Imperial Hall has never been afraid of anyone. The beautiful woman chuckled and took a step forward at the same time with Elder Wan, landing on both sides of Yin Nanshan. As for Ma Chong and the other two, how could they let go of this good opportunity? Yin Nanshan, if it was someone else, we definitely wouldn't care. However, Qin Feiyang killed the innocent and has committed grave sins. We can only offend him. The three of them walked out one after another and stood in the camp of the King of Yin. Yin Nanshan glanced at the people of the three factions and said without turning back, Qin Feiyang, as the palace master of the Martial Imperial Hall, I officially invite you to join the Martial Imperial Hall. Are you willing? The faces of the King of Yin and the rest darkened. It seemed like the Martial Imperial Hall was determined to protect Qin Feiyang and the rest today. Qin Feiyang sighed, Senior, why do you have to do this? When he was prepared to lay his cards on the table, he had already given up hope that the Martial Imperial Hall would continue to protect them. But now, the three leaders of the Martial Imperial Hall were all standing in front of him. They even invited him to join the Martial Imperial Hall at this time. It would be a lie if he wasn't touched. But because of this, he didn't want to implicate the Martial Imperial Hall. The beautiful woman said, Brat, if you dare to go back on your words, I will kill you right now. Qin Feiyang really didn't know what to say. Elder Wan guessed Qin Feiyang's concerns and said proudly, Don't worry about implicating us. Although the Martial Imperial Hall doesn't cause trouble, we are never afraid of it. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists and nodded. Okay, I agree to join the Martial Imperial Hall. Yin Nanshan sneered. Did you hear that? Qin Feiyang is already a disciple of the Martial Imperial Hall. As the Martial Imperial Hall master, I have the responsibility and obligation to find out the truth and prove his innocence. You're clearly protecting him. The red-clothed old man was furious. Boom! The aura of several combat emperors soared into the sky at this moment. The royal family, the Lin family, and the Danwang Hall were obviously going to capture him by force. The atmosphere at the scene was extremely heavy. I can help Qin Feiyang prove that everything that happened in the Iron Ox Town was Lin Bai Li's fault. If it was me, I would also kill Lin Bai Li. At this moment, Luo Qingzhu carried Zhao Shuang'er and walked into the square step by step. The first prince frowned. Sister Qingzhu, this has nothing to do with you. Leave now. Luo Qingzhu glanced at him and said, I came to Yin City this time to help Qin Feiyang testify. Why? What benefits did he give you? The first prince said angrily. When I met Qin Feiyang, he was not an alchemist yet. What benefits could I get? I just can't stand some people who rely on the royal family's support to intimidate others. I can't stand the fact that the royal family did not distinguish between right and wrong and did not investigate the truth. They only listened to some people's words and issued an arrest warrant for Qin Feiyang. Luo Qingzhu said calmly. After coming to Qin Feiyang's side, she handed Zhao Shuang'er to Ling Yunfei. Then, she turned around and looked at the King of Yin and the others without fear. The King of Yin and the others were instantly filled with murderous intent. What? You still want to touch my daughter? Zhang Jingyi landed beside Luo Qingzhu and looked at the King of Yin and the others coldly. Steward Li also came. This time, the situation was a little tricky. Qin Feiyang had never expected that there would be so many people standing together with him in the end. He stood out from the crowd and looked at the King of Yin. I won't regret killing Lin Bailey because he deserved it. Back then, I was just a nameless kid in Iron Ox Town. Just because I had a good relationship with Lin Bailey was afraid that I would hinder Lin from joining the royal family. So, he framed me behind my back and even tried to kill me everywhere. At that time, I really didn't think that I would come to this point today, because I always thought that even if the Lin family was unreasonable, the royal family should be reasonable. But what I never expected was that the royal family's arrest warrant came down in just a few days. I want to ask the King of Yin, before issuing the arrest warrant, did you ask me a question? As the county king of the county of Yin, you are in charge of thousands of people. Is this how you deal with things? The emperor gave you the royal power, not to let you form cliques and cover up your shortcomings, but to let you use a fair heart to maintain peace and solve the suffering of the people, isn't it? Qin Feiyang said calmly. As soon as these words came out, the king of Yin was speechless. He really couldn't figure out how a young boy who grew up in a small town knew so much. He even mentioned the emperor of the great Qin Empire. Similarly, Yin Nanshan and the others were also very surprised. Chapter 195. Yin Nanshan said calmly, Qin Feiyang has already told the truth and Luo Qingzhu is his witness. I would like to ask Lin Han, what else do you have to say? Lin Han said gloomily, who doesn't know that they are close? It's normal for Luo Qingzhu to help Qin Feiyang, isn't it? The king of Yin nodded and said, that's right. Qin Feiyang may be young, but he is cunning. Luo Qingzhu might have fallen into his trap and been bewitched by him. Qin Feiyang was so angry that he laughed. He did not expect these people to be so shameless. Luo Qingzhu raised her eyebrows and looked at the king of Yin. King of Yin, are you saying that I'm stupid? I'm not the only witness this time. Shuang also testified. She grew up in Iron Bowl Town. She knows many people and many things. Moreover, everyone in Iron Bowl Town knows the truth of this matter, including my mother. King of Yin, you can send someone to investigate. It will be clear who is right and who is wrong. She said calmly. The king of Yan's heart sank. He turned to look at Lin Han with a sharp gaze. Actually, he did not know what happened a year ago. Back then, Lin Han had asked him to help arrest someone. Seeing that it was just a nameless pawn, he agreed without hesitation. He did not take it to heart at that time. However, he did not expect the situation to develop to this point. If things were really as Qin Feiyang and Luo Qingzhu said, he would be known as a muddle-headed person who covered up for the Lin family. Lin Han did not expect that a mere country boy would make such a big deal out of this. He also did not expect that the person who was worse than an ant in his eyes would become a supreme-grade alchemist who was the center of attention. King of Yin, Qin Feiyang is kind-hearted. He would not kill Lin Bailey for no reason. Yes, ever since he came to Yin City, he has been giving out supreme-grade elixirs for free. He has benefited many people and saved many lives. He even took special care of those ordinary people. This is enough to prove that he has a pure heart. I don't believe that such a sensible child like him would kill the innocent. Your Excellency, Prince of Yin, please be impartial and prove Qin Feiyang's innocence. That's right. Although our words are cheap, we will never allow such a good child to be harmed by evil people. Some people in the crowd outside the square also began to speak out in support of Qin Feiyang. And gradually, this kind of support was unstoppable. In less than 10 breaths, almost everyone was in high spirits. They waved their arms and cheered for Qin Feiyang. How magnificent was this scene! Tens of thousands of shouts were intertwined. How shocking was that! The various leaders and patriarchs stared blankly at the scene before them. The shock in his heart could no longer be described with words. A young man who had just arrived in Yin City, a mere 9-star martial master, could actually obtain the love and respect of so many people? Although the people of Yin City would bow when they saw them, but it was purely out of respect and even fear. But now, as long as one had discerning eyes, they would be able to tell that these people were sincerely supporting Qin Feiyang. There were even people who threatened to use their lives to defend Qin Feiyang's innocence. This kind of situation was truly unprecedented. Is this the purpose of his elixir distribution? The first prince's eyes widened in anger. It turned out that not long after he arrived in Yin City, this person had been planning for today. How could his scheming be so terrifying? Phew! Qin Feiyang also let out a long sigh. He turned to the crowd and said with a smile, "Thank you for your support. As I said before, as long as I'm still in Swallow City, I will continue to distribute pills." Thank you, young Master Qin. My lords, did you see that? Such a good young man. Do you have the heart to hurt him? The most hateful thing is the Danwang Hall. You are purely abusing your position to avenge private grudges. Anyway, I won't allow it. I will defend his innocence even if I die. That's right. Give him justice. The crowd roared with righteous indignation. Qin Feiyang turned to look at the Prince of Yin and said calmly, "The eyes of the people are clear. Even if the royal family, the Danwang Hall, and the Lin family join forces, Don't even think about deceiving them. Ma Chang and the other two started to regret their actions. They wanted to use this opportunity to get rid of Qin Feiyang and his gang. They did not expect to go for wool and come home shorn. I am sorry, everyone. We did not know the truth just now. Now, the Danwang Hall will withdraw from this conflict. Ma Chang said loudly to the crowd. If they did not withdraw, the Danwang Hall would lose the support of the people. This was the power of ordinary people. With their strength, they could easily suppress 10 ordinary people. However, there were tens of thousands of ordinary people. Even the leaders of the county of Yin had to consider the bigger picture. After the Danwang Hall withdrew, Lin Han started to panic. He wanted to find a chance to get rid of Qin Feiyang. That way, he would be able to end everything. However, Yin Nanshan and the others were like towering mountains in front of him. He could not find the slightest opportunity. Since Luo Qingzhu said that everyone in Iron Bull Town knows the truth, then we will verify it with them in front of everyone. Old One, contact the Hall Master of Iron Bull Town Martial Arts Hall immediately, Yin Nanshan said. Yes. Elder Wan took out an image crystal and quickly activated it. After a while, a shadow appeared. It was the Hall Master of Iron Bull Town Martial Arts Hall. The Hall Master of Martial Arts Hall saw that there were so many important people present. He quickly bowed and said, Greetings, my lords. Elder Wan said, Now tell me, why did Qin Feiyang kill Lin Bailey a year ago? Qin Feiyang? The Hall Master of Martial Arts Hall was stunned. After thinking carefully for a while, he bowed and said, I remember that Qin Feiyang killed Lin Bailey out of anger because Lin Bailey framed him. Also, I clearly remember that during Lin Yi's 15th birthday banquet, Lin Chang and Lin Bailey set up a maid named Xiao Hong to poison Lin Yi. They even asked Xiao Hong to frame Qin Feiyang. At that time, even Luo Qinxue and I, as well as the Hall Master of Dan Hall, were deceived by them. They almost killed Qin Feiyang. Regarding this matter, I have always felt very guilty in my heart. The Hall Master of Martial Arts Hall said honestly, Yes. Elder Wan nodded and said, I know. You can continue with your work. Then, he turned off the image crystal. At the same time, Luo Qingzhu also took out an image crystal and poured her true qi into it. After a while, Luo Qinxue's shadow appeared. Luo Qinxue smiled and said, Qingzhu, are you contacting me because of Qin Feiyang? Yes, mother. Luo Qingzhu nodded. It seems that the Lin family is hopeless. Luo Qinxue looked disappointed. Then, she told the truth. Qin Feiyang walked to Luo Qingzhu's side and bowed. Thank you, Aunt Shui. It's okay. Remember to come back and chat with me when you're free. Luo Qinxue smiled and said with a loving look. Qin Feiyang nodded. Aunt Shui? Jiang Jingyi was stunned. He hurriedly waved at Luo Qinxue and said, Shui, however. Before he could say anything, Luo Qinxue turned off the image crystal. This made him feel awkward. Qin Feiyang looked at Jiang Jingyi strangely. He turned to look at Ma Cheng and the other two and smiled faintly. Seniors, why don't you ask the Hall Master of Iron Bull Town Pill Hall? No need. Ma Cheng replied faintly. The truth has been revealed. Lord King Yin, we beg you to cancel the arrest warrant for Qin Feiyang. The crowd outside the field shouted. Yin Nanshan lifted the corner of his mouth and smiled. It seemed that he didn't need to do anything. These ordinary people were enough to help Qin Feiyang turn the situation around. King Yin glared at Lin Han fiercely and said to the crowd with a smile, Okay, I now officially announce that I will cancel the arrest warrant for Qin Feiyang. I will also take out 10 million gold coins to compensate Qin Feiyang. King Yin is wise. Everyone was overjoyed and knelt down. At this moment, Fatso and the others finally breathed a sigh of relief. King Yin looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled faintly. If you have any other requests, just tell me. I will try my best to satisfy you. Qin Feiyang looked at Lin Yi and cupped his hands. I beg King Yin to cancel the wedding of Lin Yi and the eldest prince. Lin Yi's eyes trembled, and tears flowed out uncontrollably. What? The faces of the people in the square suddenly changed. He really planned to snatch the bride. This is impossible. Lin Yi is my adopted daughter. I have the final say on who she wants to marry. You are not qualified to interfere. Lin Han roared with a stern expression. Qin Feiyang said faintly, I am indeed not qualified, but there is one person who is qualified. Who? Lin Han frowned. Lin Chong, it's your turn to come out. Qin Feiyang said faintly. Lin Chong. Lin Han glared and searched in the crowd. Father. Lin Yi murmured and was also searching. Lin Chong took a deep breath and stepped to Qin Feiyang's side. At that moment, everyone's eyes were locked on him. Qin Feiyang took out a facial restoration pill and handed it to Lin Chong. After Lin Chong took it, he quickly restored his original appearance. Lin Han's eyes turned cold and shouted, Lin Chong, you are really bold. Don't forget that you have signed the agreement to sever the relationship between father and daughter. Lin Chang's face suddenly showed a look of fear. You forced the father and daughter to sign the agreement, and you still have the nerve to mention it? Let me tell everyone that the person behind me is Lin Yi's biological father. Qin Feiyang stood in front of Lin Chong, blocking Lin Han's gaze, and sneered. Forced? Everyone looked at each other, and their faces showed a look of realization. That's right. If Lin Han didn't do this, then the one who benefited the most was not him, but Lin Yi's father. At that time, this branch family master was very likely to climb over Lin Han's head. In fact, this kind of thing was very common. It was also a kind of unspoken rule. Because the main family's power was too great, the branch family did not dare to resist. But this time, the Lin family was very unlucky to provoke Qin Feiyang, the evildoer. As for Lin Han, his face was gloomy to the extreme. King Yin also frowned. With his intelligence, he could immediately imagine what was going to happen next. And these things absolutely could not happen. Chapter 196. Thinking of this, King Yin hurriedly walked towards Lin Chong. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. What is he doing? King Yin smiled and said, Little brother, I want to talk to him. Can you step aside? Since the other party was so polite, what else could he say? He could only step aside. King Yin grabbed Lin Chang's hand and blamed himself. I'm really ashamed. I didn't invite you to Yi and my son's wedding. Brother Lin, please forgive me. Fatso whispered, Boss, something might be wrong. Qin Feiyang's pupils constricted, and he looked at Lin Chong without blinking. Lin Chong was at a loss at this moment. A person like him, who lived at the bottom, would never meet such a big shot in his life. But now, this big shot actually put down his face and apologized to him in person. He was really flattered. King Yin smiled and said, Brother Lin, I'm deeply sorry for what Lin Han did. But as you can see, my son really likes Yi. Why don't you fulfill their wish? This, Lin Chong looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang shook his head gently. King Yan's eyes flashed, and he continued to smile, Brother Lin. As long as you nod your head now, the palace will be your home from now on. You can come and go as you wish. After saying that, he turned to look at the eldest prince and shouted, What are you doing? Come and greet your future father-in-law. The eldest prince shuddered and quickly ran to Lin Chong. He bowed and said, Your son-in-law pays his respects to father-in-law. The word father-in-law made Lin Chang's heart waver. Qin Feiyang looked at Lin Yi. Her face was full of pleading. His eyes darkened, and he said to Lin Chong, Please consider Yi's feelings. Lin Chong hesitated. In the end, he looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. I think that after Yi marries into the royal family, the eldest prince will definitely treat her well. As Yi's good friend, you should send your blessings, right? Bastard. Fatso was furious. Lu Hong's face was also filled with anger. Lin Yi slumped to the ground on the spot. Her tears fell like rain, but Qin Feiyang smiled. However, this smile was very bitter. He clearly knew that Lin Chong was a vile person who only cared about profits, yet he still hoped that Lin Chong would turn the situation around. How ironic. Serves you right. Lin Han laughed in a gloating manner. Although Lin Chong had gained a huge advantage, he could make Lin Chong disappear from Yin City as long as he paid a small price. At that time, as Lin Yi's adoptive father, he could still get benefits. The king of Yin also heaved a sigh of relief. As long as Lin Chong agreed, even Qin Feiyang would have no reason to object to the wedding. He smiled. Brother Lin, please take a seat. Thank you, Prince of Yin. Lin Chang cupped his hands and walked towards the main seat with the King of Yin and the first prince, talking and laughing. The moment he sat on the main seat, his vanity exploded. He completely forgot himself and didn't look at Qin Feiyang again. The first prince walked to Lin Yi's side and smiled. Don't worry. I will treat you well. Get up quickly. It's too disgraceful in public. Lin Yi slowly got up and looked up at Qin Feiyang. Her eyes were full of despair. She turned back to her seat without saying a word. Qin Feiyang's heart couldn't help but feel a stab of pain. His hands were clenched tightly. Wolf King said sternly, "Little Qin Zi, Brother Wolf will kill this scum." "No need." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Luo Qingzhu said. Lin Chang nodded. "This matter is a foregone conclusion. Don't make trouble. If you really can't stand it, go back first." A foregone conclusion. Qin Feiyang was silent. Ling Yunfei patted him on the shoulder and comforted. "Qingzhu is right. You have done your best. I believe Lin Yi will not blame you." Fatso said, "Bro, let's go. All of you, back off." Qin Feiyang suddenly said. His eyes were extremely sharp. Ling Yunfei and the others looked at each other helplessly and retreated to the side. Yin Nanshan and others also frowned and returned to their seats one after another. The first prince got up and looked at Qin Feiyang. He said angrily, "What else do you want?" Lin Chang was also displeased. "Feiyang, Uncle only knows that you care about Yi very much. But isn't it inappropriate to continue making trouble like this?" "Uncle?" Qin Feiyang sneered. "Don't call me so affectionately. I am not familiar with you." Lin Chang's expression stiffened, and he suddenly fell into an awkward situation. King Yin said, "Qin Feiyang, if you still don't stop, I can only ask you to leave." Qin Feiyang glanced at them one by one. All of a sudden, he grabbed his shirt and tore it hard. With a poof, the shirt was torn, revealing a strong upper body. The King of Yin was enraged. He shouted, "Qin Feiyang, do you know that what you are doing now is humiliating the royal family in public?" Yin Nanshan and others also frowned. This move was indeed inappropriate. "Quick, look at his chest. Why is there a white mark?" Suddenly, someone exclaimed. "Mark?" Everyone fixed their eyes on it. There was indeed a mark. The shape was like a door, exuding a hazy white brilliance. But what is this mark? Qin Feiyang tore his shirt. Did he want them to see this mark? No, this is not an ordinary mark. Could it be? Jiang Jingyi suddenly got up and looked at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. Seeing Jiang Jingyi's huge reaction, the others were also surprised. Yin Nanshan was also suspicious. All of a sudden, he seemed to have thought of something and stood up abruptly. His eyes shone with an aggressive light. "I know. That is a potential mark." He enunciated each word with great difficulty. "What? A potential mark?" All the powerhouses and family masters stood up in unison. Their faces were filled with shock and horror. This lad had actually broken through the extreme martial artist realm and opened the first level of the gate of potential. Unbelievable. It was simply unbelievable. In a small place like the county of Yin, the extreme martial artist realm was only a legend. No one had ever broken through it. At this moment, the legend had become a reality and was standing right in front of them. One could imagine how strong the impact on their souls was. Even Ling Yunfei, Fengling Air, Luo Qingzhu, Fatso, and the rest were dumbfounded. The extreme martial artist realm. They had not even thought about it. This lad was too heaven-defying. His talent in alchemy was already beyond their reach. Now, even his martial arts talent was so shocking. How were they supposed to live? How many more secrets was he hiding? Qin Feiyang's expression was very calm as he took out a jade box from his universe bag. Everyone looked at the jade box in unison. They were all wondering if the item in the jade box had something to do with him breaking through the extreme martial artist realm. Qin Feiyang opened the jade box. A rich medicinal fragrance wafted in all directions. "It's elixirs." Everyone's eyes trembled. There were a total of 3 elixirs. They were blood red and the elixir patterns were glaring. Could these 3 elixirs be refined from those herbs? Stewardly mumbled to himself. "White-eyed wolf, come with me." Qin Feiyang called out and turned to leave in big strides. Wolf King's eyes lit up and he quickly followed. They left, Everyone was stunned. However, the man and wolf did not leave. After walking for a distance, they stopped. Qin Feiyang turned to Yin Nanshan and cupped his fists. Temple Master, I'll leave it to you. He's really a man of his word. Yin Nanshan smiled bitterly. It seemed that this lad would not stop today if he did not ruin this wedding. However, he was really looking forward to seeing if Qin Feiyang could break through the extreme martial artist realm. No, it should be the extreme martial artist realm, the second level of the gate of potential. He landed in the middle of the square, 100 meters away from the man and wolf. Qin Feiyang took out a potential elixir and looked down at Wolf King with a smile. Are you ready? Wolf King drooled and said angrily. Nonsense. Hurry up and give it to Brother Wolf. Qin Feiyang smiled and handed the potential elixir over. Wolf King rolled his tongue and swallowed it. Qin Feiyang also quickly swallowed a potential elixir. He closed the jade box and kept it in his universe bag. Roar. Immediately, Wolf King howled suddenly. The tendons and bones all over his body bulged and his eyes turned bloodshot. Qin Feiyang was the same. His teeth were bared and his facial features were distorted. The man and wolf felt as if countless steel needles were piercing into their bodies, causing them so much pain that they wished they were dead. Even the pores on their bodies were bleeding. In the blink of an eye, the man and wolf were drenched in blood. Qin Feiyang gritted his teeth and said, Temple Master, begin. Huff. Yin Nanshan exhaled and his expression became extremely serious. A terrifying aura rushed out of his body. It turned into a monstrous wave that drowned the man and wolf instantly. For the man and wolf, it was undoubtedly one disaster after another. Roar. Wolf King howled in pain. Its colossal body was trembling madly. Bear with it, Qin Feiyang shouted. The pain this time was dozens or even hundreds of times more painful than when he broke through the extreme martial artist realm. But he gritted his teeth and persevered. Wolf King roared, Was it the same for your first time? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. The first time, he also took the potential elixir. But the difference was, the potential elixir that Uncle Yuan gave him had a dragon-shaped core qi. According to the Elixir Sutra, elixirs that produced a dragon-shaped core qi far surpassed supreme-grade elixirs. It could be said that it was a divine elixir. The effects of divine elixirs and supreme-grade elixirs were naturally different. Therefore, he only experienced some pain back then and successfully broke through the extreme martial artist realm. As for the supreme-grade potential elixir that he refined, the Elixir Sutra recorded that it required the assistance of a very strong aura and the medicinal effect of the supreme-grade potential elixir. Only by digging out all aspects could one break through the extreme realm. The pain he faced was naturally incomparable to the first time. In fact, if his willpower was not firm enough, he would die on the spot. Wolf King was facing such a crisis now. It was too uncomfortable. In its heart, it could not help but have the urge to commit suicide. That way, it would be free. White-eyed wolf, hang in there even if you die. Seeing that the situation was not good, Qin Feiyang hurriedly used a telepathic voice transmission to shout at Wolf King. I can't, Brother Wolf can't hold on anymore. Wolf King muttered, his voice filled with weakness and powerlessness. Chapter 197. Oh no. Qin Feiyang panicked. He was able to hold on because he had experienced it once and was mentally prepared. However, Wolf King had never faced such pain before. He should not be so anxious. He should have let Wolf King watch him break through the martial master realm first. That way, Wolf King could be prepared in advance. Brother Wolf, have you forgotten how the wolves died? Don't you want to avenge them? Have you forgotten the oath we made back then? If you give up now, they won't be able to rest in peace, and they'll die with hatred in their hearts. Don't count on me. I won't avenge you. If you dare to die, I will let the Lin family live freely. Qin Feiyang roared telepathically. The Lin family, Wolf King murmured. The scene of what happened in Iron Ox Town surfaced in his mind. Yes, Brother Wolf hasn't destroyed the Lin family yet. How can I die? If I die now, little Qinzi will look down on Brother Wolf. Brother Wolf, you have to work hard to survive. A strong desire to survive surged in its heart. Its consciousness quickly shook off the darkness. His large pupils were filled with a resolute light, and his fighting spirit was high. Roar! It roared angrily and took a step forward. What? Yin Nanshan was dumbfounded. How could he still move under his pressure? Zhang Jingyi and the others were also dumbfounded. They could not believe it. When Wolf King took its third step, boom! A muffled rumble exploded within its body. Following that, streaks of dazzling white light burst forth from its forehead. If one were to remove its hair, they would be shocked to find that a door-shaped mark was quickly forming. That's right. It succeeded. At the same time, its aura suddenly skyrocketed. Under this terrifying pressure, it not only broke through the martial master realm, but also raised its cultivation to a higher level. Yin Nanshan waved his hand and released his battle aura. It swept up Wolf King and flew to the beautiful woman. Wolf King didn't even have the strength to stand up. He lay on the ground weakly. Ling Yunfei hurriedly ran over, took out a top-grade healing pill, and fed it to Wolf King. Then, he said excitedly, "Brother Wolf, you've done it. You're now the second person in the entire county of Yin to break through the limits of a martial artist." Brother Wolf is a handsome wolf. Don't be mistaken. Wolf King rolled his eyes at him, but he was also very excited. At this moment, everyone was also looking at Wolf King with fervent eyes. Wolf King, who had opened the door to his potential, had a limitless future. Boom! At this moment, another low rumble resounded in the square. Everyone looked over. At this moment, Qin Feiyong was covered in blood. However, the potential imprint on his chest was shining brightly. In the next instant, the white light suddenly turned black. Seeing this, Yin Nanshan was overjoyed and quickly withdrew his imposing manner. Qin Feiyong followed, half kneeling on the ground, gasping for air. Yin Nanshan landed beside Qin Feiyong, took out a healing pill, and fed it to Qin Feiyong. "Thank you, Temple Master," Qin Feiyong said gratefully. "As long as you've succeeded, it's better than anything else." Yin Nanshan laughed heartily. A 16-year-old boy had opened the second level of the potential imprint. When this news spread, not only the county of Yin, but also the other 17 counties would be stirred up by a huge storm. It would even shock the state capital. Ignoring the blood on Qin Feiyong, Yin Nanshan personally helped him to the chair. The potential imprint on his chest had turned black, giving off a mysterious feeling. All the big shots and patriarchs stared fixedly at Qin Feiyong. Their eyes were filled with fanaticism. "I'll take them to wash up." Yin Nanshan came to the beautiful woman and said. Then, he took Qin Feiyong and Wolf King into the sky and quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. This place was in an uproar. Everyone's face was full of disbelief. Ma Chang and the other two slumped on the chair powerlessly at this moment. For the nether demonic flame, they actually forced away such a peerless genius? Why is this? Why were they so stupid in the beginning? Not to mention the value of this child. Just the medicinal pill was enough to make the Danwang Hall's edge suppress any force. But they personally pushed this person into the arms of Martial Emperor Hall. At this moment, their intestines were green with regret. They wanted to shout, "Is there a regret pill in the world? Brother Feiyong, I'm so proud of you." Lin Yi whispered. There was finally color in her empty eyes. However, Lin Cheng's eyes looked a little gloomy. He looked at King Yin and smiled. "Let's get the two children married while he's not here. Wait for him to come back," King Yin said without hesitation. Lin Cheng's smile froze, and an uneasy premonition emerged in his heart. The eldest prince frowned, walked to King Yin, and sat down. He whispered, "Father, are you going to let me give up Lin Yi?" King Yin lowered his head and remained silent. About 100 breaths passed. Yin Nanshan returned with a man and a wolf. Qin Feiyong didn't talk nonsense. He took out the jade box, looked at King Yin, and said, "I will use this medicinal pill to exchange for Lin Yi. Think about it." After speaking, he put the jade box on the table next to Yin Nanshan. Everyone's heart shuddered. This was an irresistible temptation. Potential pill. The eldest prince's body also trembled. He looked up at the jade box, his eyes full of desire. King Yin pondered for a moment, looked at Qin Feiyong and asked, Why do you have to help Linny? Do you really like her? Everyone also looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang said, I treat her as a sister. Linny was originally very happy and looking forward to it. But when she heard this, she couldn't help but feel sad. King Yin shook his head and said, You have sacrificed so much just to treat her as a sister. I really admire you. He lowered his head and pondered for a moment. Finally, he made up his mind and looked at Qin Feiyang. Okay, I will cancel their wedding. You can take Lin Yi away at any time. Lin Cheng's gaze trembled. He hurriedly got up and looked at King Yin. I have made up my mind, King Yin said expressionlessly. Lin Cheng slumped on the chair, his face pale. Qin Feiyang smiled. He strode to Lin Yi and said with a smile, Girl, I have let you suffer. Lin Yi shook her head. Tears couldn't stop flowing. Qin Feiyang stretched out his hand, wiped the tears on her cheeks, and smiled. Let's go. Today is our birthday. We have to celebrate it. And Lin Yi nodded and asked, What about my father? Lin Cheng shuddered. He got up, grabbed Qin Feiyang's hand and begged, Feiyang, Uncle knows his mistake. Please forgive Uncle. Qin Feiyang shook him off indifferently. He looked at Fatso and others and said, Take ye away first. Understood. Fatso smiled. Let's go. Lu Hong stepped forward, pulled Lin Yi, and walked out of the square. Everyone consciously retreated to the side and opened up a path for him. After they left, Qin Feiyang turned to look at Lin Cheng. Lin Cheng said anxiously, Feiyang, I was just muddle-headed at that time. Don't blame Uncle, okay? Qin Feiyang kicked him directly in the stomach. Plop. Lin Cheng lay on the ground on the spot, curling up in pain. You should be glad that you are Yi's father. Otherwise, you won't even have the chance to wail now. In the future, don't come to me again, and don't go to Yi again, because you don't deserve to be her father. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, then turned and walked toward Yin Nanshan and others. Lin Cheng got up awkwardly and half knelt on the ground. Looking at Qin Feiyang's back, he roared, People walk to higher places, and water flows to lower places. What did I do wrong? I know you clearly. You will never have the chance to make a meteoric rise in this life. Qin Feiyang turned his head and glanced at him contemptuously. He walked to Yin Nanshan and others and smiled. Temple Master, Elder Wan, Elder Ji, why don't we have a few drinks together? Sure. The three nodded without hesitation. What about us? Aren't you inviting us? Steward Li looked at him unhappily. Don't forget, I helped you just now. Zhang Zhengyi said coldly. Qin Feiyang was stunned and smiled bitterly. There are many things in Treasure Pavilion. I thought you were going back. Since you are not busy, then this junior sincerely invites the two seniors. Busy? They were definitely busy. But no matter how busy they were, they had to build a good relationship with this lad. At the very least, they had to find out the name of the elixir. King of Yin, we will take our leave. Zhang Jingyi and Yin Nanshan stood up and cupped their hands to the King of Yin. Then, they left with Qin Feiyang and others. King of Yin, we will take our leave too. Ma Cheng and the other two soared into the sky and disappeared. The masters of the various families also led their men to bid farewell to the King of Yin. The crowd outside the square also dispersed quickly. After a while, only the King of Yin and the Lin family were left in the square. There were also two outsiders. One was Shan Chong and the other was Lin Chong. But no one cared about the two of them. Even the three giants of the Martial Imperial Hall did not look at Shen Chong before they left. The first prince ran over and carried the jade box to the King of Yin as if he had obtained a treasure. The King of Yin took it in his hands and his eyes lit up. The red-haired old man was also very eager. He cupped his hands and said, King of Yin, I am really sorry to have caused you so much trouble today. Lin Han and the noblewoman also hurriedly apologized. The King of Yin waved his hand and said with a smile, It's okay. As long as we can get this elixir, everything else is a small matter. Also, don't provoke Qin Feiyang in the future. Lin Han said, Then wouldn't Bailey have died for nothing? Can't you just have another one? The King of Yin glared at him angrily and said, I will tell you clearly. In less than 3 days, the state capital will send someone here. Qin Feiyang's future achievements will be higher than yours and mine. State capital. Lin Han's body trembled. The red-haired old man also had a look of fear. I have said everything that needs to be said. You guys can think about what to do. After the king of Yin finished speaking, he soared into the sky and flew towards the palace. Seeing that the first prince was about to enter the palace, Shun Chang hurriedly chased after him and said, "Your Highness, what should I do now?" "It has nothing to do with me." The first prince looked at him disdainfully and left without looking back. At the same time, Lin Chang also knelt in front of Lin Han and begged, "Master, please pity me and help me, okay?" "Pity you?" Lin Han directly slapped Lin Chang's face and said with a cold smile, "Who do you think you are? Why should I pity you?" After saying that, he kicked him again. The red-haired old man reached out and stopped him. He lowered his head and looked at Lin Chang. He said calmly, "From now on, the branch of the Iron Bull town has nothing to do with the Lin family. You can fend for yourself." Whoosh. After saying that, the red-haired old man waved his hand and led the Lin family away. In this way, only Lin Chang and Shun Chang were left in the entire square. Chapter 198. Flying Phoenix Restaurant. When Qin Feiyang and the others entered the lobby, the restaurant owner personally came out to greet them. Moreover, he immediately asked the waiter to send away all the guests. All day long, he only served Qin Feiyang and the others. Throughout the day, all the family heads in Yin City came to visit one after another. The threshold of the Flying Phoenix restaurant was almost broken. Furthermore, each of them had prepared a huge gift. They claimed that it was a birthday gift for Qin Feiyang, but in fact, they took this opportunity to curry favor. Qin Feiyang did not refuse them and asked Fatso and Lu Hong to accept them all. The two were overjoyed. Finally, they had some savings. Later, even the eldest prince and Lin Hao came. Zhao Shuang'er also woke up later. When she heard Qin Feiyang kicked Lin Hua's balls, she couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. As for Steward Li, he always wanted to get something out of Qin Feiyang's mouth, but he couldn't pry open Qin Feiyang's mouth until the banquet was over. The bright moon hung high. The soothing lake in the middle of the night was quiet and peaceful. Qin Feiyang sat by the lake, looking at the calm lake with a faint smile on his face. This time, not only did he save Lin Yi, but he also announced his identity. From now on, there was no need to hide anymore. The most important thing was that he successfully opened the second level of the Gate of Potential. His cultivation speed would undoubtedly rise to another level. Oh, whoa. Suddenly, a wolf howl came from the opposite side. Qin Feiyang looked up and saw a vague shadow running over from the stone bridge. Who else could it be but Wolf King? Wolf King ran to Qin Feiyang's side and laughed. "It's so cool. This is the life Brother Wolf wants." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. "Have you been wild enough for today?" As soon as they left the square, Wolf King slipped away alone. "I wonder what he has been doing all day. It's still early." The Wolf King chuckled. "Boss, the results are out." At this moment, Fatso ran out of the attic excitedly. As soon as he came back, he started to sort out the gifts he had received today. "How is it?" Qin Feiyang asked. Fatso said, "Including the 10 million gold coins sent by the first prince, our total harvest today is 120 million gold coins." "So many." Wolf King was shocked. Qin Feiyang smiled. "Almost all the families in Yin City are here. Each of them has several 100,000, so it's normal to gather 100 million. What else is there besides gold coins?" "They're pretty smart. Other than gold coins, they've also sent medicinal herbs." Fat Lord calculated that there are a total of 23 sets of herbs for the red fire glazed pill. "I've also gathered 2 sets of medicinal ingredients for the potential pill. Let's not talk about the rest." According to Fat Lord's estimation, all the herbs added together are worth at least 2 to 300 million. Fatso said excitedly. Qin Feiyang smiled. "So, we've become rich all of a sudden?" "Of course, I'm afraid that even the Lin family can't compare with our assets now." The fatty was full of heroism. He chuckled and moved to Qin Feiyang's side, saying, "Boss, look at how hard Lord Fatty is working." "Should I?" Before he finished, Wolf King said angrily, "In your dreams, Brother Wolf still needs to open the second level of the Gate of Potential. Fatso's face fell immediately, and he begged, Brother Wolf, you can't do this. Qin Feiyang looked at Wolf King and smiled faintly. You can't open the second level now? Why? Wolf King was puzzled. Qin Feiyang smiled. Because you've broken through. The next time you open it, you'll be a 9-star martial arts grandmaster. Damn it. Why didn't you say so earlier? Brother Wolf wouldn't have broken through. Wolf King stared at him angrily. Then Zhang Lauda. What about me? Fatso looked at Qin Feiyang expectantly. Qin Feiyang said, Don't worry, I won't forget you and Lu Hong. When I become a 9-star martial master, I'll give it to you. In addition, continue to buy the herbs for the potential pill, as much as you can. Understood. Fatso nodded. Qin Feiyang's face suddenly darkened, and he said angrily, Give me 1 million pocket money first. Fatso's face twitched. 1 million was just pocket money. Now he was really rich. After taking out 1 million gold coins and handing it to Qin Feiyang, Fatso gave Qin Feiyang the herbs for the potential pill and the red fire glass pill, and then he turned and entered the attic. After a while, Lu Hong walked out. Qin Feiyang asked, How is Yi? She's already asleep. Lu Hong smiled faintly and said, What do you plan to do with her? Arrangements? Qin Feiyang frowned. Lu Hong sighed. I can feel that her feelings for you are getting deeper and deeper. If you really only treat her as a sister, you can't keep her by your side. Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened. He really hadn't thought about this point. Fortunately, Lu Hong reminded him. Lu Hong suggested, Why don't we secretly send her to the Martial Imperial Palace in Star Moon City? This way, not only can we ensure her safety, but we can also prevent Lin Chang from harassing her. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and nodded. All right, let's do it this way. Tomorrow, I'll go find Luo Qingzhu and ask when they will return to Star Moon City. You must be tired during this period of time, so go and rest. And Lu Hong nodded. Just as she turned around, she looked back at Qin Feiyang and pursed her lips with a smile. Do you need pocket money? Qin Feiyang's face twitched as he said with a dark face, I just asked Fatso for 1 million. Lu Hong smiled and said, Is that so? Then you should rest early too. Wait. Qin Feiyang stopped her and took out a wooden box from his Chinkoan bag. There were 5 jade pendants inside. It was the flaming phoenix that he bought from the jewelry store. Qin Feiyang took out a jade pendant and threw it to Lu Hong, smiling. For you? For me? Lu Hong caught it and felt a little uncomfortable. Qin Feiyang hurriedly said, Don't misunderstand. This is not a token of love. Then what's the point? Lu Hong was puzzled. Yes. If something happens to you in the future and you can't use the image crystal, you can find a way to ask someone to send the jade pendant to me. At that time, I will know that you are in danger. Speaking of which, it's also a token. Give this to Fatso, Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. He took out another one and threw it to Lu Hong. So that's how it is. Lu Hong suddenly understood. She took the 2 jade pendants and turned to leave. Qin Feiyang looked down at the remaining 3 jade pendants. One for Yi, one for Ling Yunfei. Why don't I give the last one to Feng Ling Heir? Before Feng Cheng died, he asked him to take care of Feng Ling Heir. He also promised. He couldn't go back on his word. The night was as dark as ink. In an inconspicuous restaurant, in a private room, Lin Chang and Shun Chang reeked of alcohol. There were more than a dozen empty wine jars on the table and floor. I tried every means to let my daughter marry into the royal family, but in the end, it was all in vain. I even offended countless people. Why do I have to do this? Lin Chang sighed. Aren't I the same? I wanted to curry favor with the first prince, but in the end, I didn't manage to curry favor with the first prince, and the Martial Imperial Palace abandoned me. Where should I go in the future? Shun Chang closed his eyes in pain. It was too late for regrets. Creak. The door was suddenly pushed open. A black-clothed man walked in and looked at the two of them. I can help you. Who are you? Who allowed you to come in? The two of them said angrily. The black-clothed man said expressionlessly, Don't ask me who I am. Just know that I can help you. How? If you have the ability, go get rid of Lin Han and let me be the head of the Lin family. Lin Chang said in disdain. That's right. If you are so awesome, then go and help me kill Qin Feiyang and the first prince. Shenchang mocked. The black-clothed man said, as long as you join the organization, it's only a matter of time. The two of them looked at each other, and their drunkenness disappeared. They turned to look at the black-clothed man and said in a low voice, Really? The black-clothed man nodded. What organization? Shenchang asked. Blood Slaughter Palace. The black-clothed man said word by word, Blood Slaughter Palace? Shenchang frowned and said, Why haven't I heard of this name? The black-clothed man said, Have you heard of the Blood Slaughter token? What? Shenchang suddenly stood up, his eyes filled with shock. The black-clothed man said, The Blood Slaughter token is the identity token of the Blood Slaughter Palace. The palace master of the Blood Slaughter Palace is a battle emperor. Moreover, there are 2 battle emperors in Yin City who have joined the Blood Slaughter Palace. Shenchang's pupil shrank and asked, Who are the 2 battle emperors? The black-clothed man said, This is a secret. You don't have the right to know. I'm telling you this because I want you to know how powerful the Blood Slaughter Palace is. Shenchang pondered for a moment and nodded. All right, I'll join. What about you? The black-clothed man looked at Lin Chang indifferently. Lin Chang said, If the Blood Slaughter Palace can really help me become the patriarch of Yin City's Lin family, I will immediately agree to join. I can assure you. The black-clothed man said, I'll join. Lin Chang said. The black-clothed man said, Well, now I'll give you the first task. Find a way to capture Lin Yi for me. What? Lin Chang's face changed. The black-clothed man said, The rules of the Blood Slaughter Palace are unconditional obedience. No. Lin Chang shook his head and said, She is my daughter. I can't do this. The black-clothed man's eyes flashed coldly and said, If you don't do it, you will die now. It's your choice. Shenchang said, Lin Chang, just agree. If your daughter is gone, you can have another one. But if you lose your life, then you are gone. Besides, how can you become the patriarch of the Lin family without some sacrifice? Lin Chang lowered his head and struggled in his heart. Shenchang said again, I don't think Lin Yi treats you as a father. Otherwise, why hasn't she come to visit you until now? Since she is so heartless, why do you have to worry so much? Lin Chang's eyes flashed fiercely. He nodded and said, Okay, I will do it. The black-clothed man looked at Shan Chang with appreciation. He took out 2 blood slaughter tokens and threw them on the table. I will only give you 3 days. If you don't complete the task, you will all die. At that time, I will take the initiative to find you. After saying that, the black-clothed man turned and left. Lin Chang asked, Younger brother Shin, what is this Blood Slaughter Palace? Shenchang shook his head and said, I don't know, but there are 3 combat emperors. It is definitely not simple. Hurry up and think about how to trick your daughter out of the Martial Imperial Hall. Tomorrow, I will go to the Martial Imperial Hall to find her. I don't believe that she is so desperate that she won't even see me. Lin Chang snorted coldly. Well, for the sake of safety, I will buy some phantom form pills first. You stay here and try to come up with a foolproof plan. Shenchang grabbed a blood slaughter token and left quickly. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.